Gregory, I'm getting better with my timings. Look at this.
Oh, what time is it?
It's
58:17. I remember back in the day you used to play like...
best song ever?
No, like a little loose conversation. You know, songs that were about a minute and a half long or something?
Yeah, but that was very tricky to find.
You were just finding your feet on the breakfast show.
I was only learning how to get... See, every day's a learning day, isn't it?
Naughty alarm clock show.
Yeah. Come here, did you sign that card beside you there? See the telephone there? Here, over there.
Let me do it now.
Do it there now. Say something really nice now. What does it say in the front of it?
You're 60?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not me. Somebody else.
No, I can't do that and talk at the same time.
Can you not?
Ashamed of it.
You do this.
I can't
do you know it. It's the spellings that gets me sometimes.
Because I have to speak when I'm...
Yeah. Are you a good handwriter?
No,
Are you
terrible.
not?
See, I believe I'm left-handed because I do an awful lot of stuff left-handed.
Right. What do you do?
Well,
don't go there.
Play pool,
darts?
stuff like that. No, darts is right-handed, but I favour my left hand with a lot of stuff. I think I was left-handed.
But sure, would you not do the pool with the right hand?
No, that's just one example, but that's why I believe my handwriting is terrible.
Right.
So that's
I just thought you were very intelligent.
No, and handwriting's not linked to intelligence.
No, that's what they used to say, wasn't it? Something
well, that's why they used to tie your left hand behind your back.
Oh,
it's that kind of an attitude, Gooch.
Who tied your left hand?
Not me, but there's plenty of people listening will know exactly what I'm talking about in school, having the left hand tied behind the back, or if they
that's
picked
going
up,
back really.
Well, not that far ago. If you picked up the pen in your left hand, getting a slap with the ruler on it.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
I'm sure there's plenty of people listening will be able to relate to that,
That's
or indeed
wicked.
heard from their mums and dads about it. Anyway, on that note,
cheery note. I was all cheery. And then, anyway,
we'll pick it up tomorrow. We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up.
Okay, love's in the air. Right, good luck.
All right, Lee, take care of yourself. It is 9 o'clock, right on the button. Let's take a news update, and it's back over again to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The trial into the killing of Private Sean Rooney in Lebanon has been postponed until the 17th of September. The Irish Daily Star reports that none of the people indicted for the attack on the peacekeeping convoy appeared in court in Beirut yesterday. The 24-year-old from Newton Cunningham was fatally injured in the attack in December of 2022. A councillor in Letterkenny, Milford district says he's long called motions notions because of a lack of action on the issues raised. Councillor Thomas John Devine says that before being elected in the council, he wondered what happened after a motion was raised, as often results were lacking or totally absent. He says while the comment was light-hearted, there's a very serious truth behind it.
I asked a couple of councillors yesterday while we were having a cup of tea, where does these motions go? Because, as I say, before I was elected for council, we called them notions, because nothing ever seemed to come of them. And it was recently talked about that no councillor could put on the same motion for 6 months. Doesn't matter which councillor put it on, the councillors couldn't bring up that same motion again. These motions have to be constantly brought up because nothing comes from them. And it's either funding or whatever reason why nothing comes from them. It needs to be looked at.
Local link services should be used to enhance the nighttime economy. Councillor Declan Meehan says the pressure faced by taxis in Letterkenny, especially at nighttime, is well documented, as is the struggles faced by people trying to find a way home after a night out. He says he thinks a balance can be struck to avoid overly intoxicated people burdening the service.
At the minute, Local Link are balancing that, and the last service leaves Letterkenny down to Fanage at midnight or in and around midnight. And I think that that's a really good compromise. I think it's a really good balance. You don't have, and you wouldn't expect people to be driving public transport at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning at the weekends. But I think around midnight is a really good time for final departures on services. And again, it's about boosting the country pubs and it's about boosting the restaurants.
An external review is going to be carried out into how the Arts Council manages its money. It's emerged almost €7 million was spent on a failed IT system for the agency. It's the latest controversy involving a waste of people's money. Arts Minister Patrick O'Donovan says he wants to get to the bottom of it.
And the public are right to be angry about it. I'm angry about it. I'm a taxpayer. The people listening to this programme will be seeking to know, well, where is the €6 million and how did it manage to get spent? Who spent it?
Looking now to weather, today will be mostly cloudy and dry, some light patchy rain with highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. That's all from now from Highland Radio News, back again at 10 o'clock.
Introducing Instagram teen accounts with new built-in protections. Teen accounts are private by default, helping to protect them from unwanted contact. And teenagers under 16 require parental approval to change these protections. Instagram teen accounts, new built-in protections for parents' peace of mind. Learn more at instagram.com/teen accounts.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It's approaching 4 minutes past 9 on this Thursday, the 13th of February 2025. Lads, if you are of the mind and you are with someone, just a reminder, get it done today. Don't try and panic and sort something out tomorrow, make tomorrow, ruin tomorrow for yourself when all the flowers are gone and you can't find a card. This morning, get it done this morning, and then you can chill and relax and have a peaceful weekend. And girls, you can take that advice as well. We're broadcasting the show live this morning from dull enough northwest of Ireland. It's quite dark outside. Probably like that where you are or wherever you're listening. Tell us what it's like. 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number. Good for your WhatsApp voice notes as well. If you are listening outside the Republic, it's 00353 86 60 25,000. If you want to give us a call, it's 07491 25,000, and emails to comments@highlandradio.com. And you can watch the show as well on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland. That's good for your mobile devices, but also your smart TV or your Fire Stick. Just might as well watch your local feature show, your local magazine show, rather than sit and watching This Morning, although that might be your thing too, and that's okay. You can also watch us on X and on Facebook as well. Thursdays is always a busy one for papers, as you know. We'll try and pick out some interesting stories for you. And feel free to text as you listen if there's a point you want to make on these stories. We'll start with the Tyrconnell Tribune. And a decision on planning permission for a proposed new supermarket and petrol station in Creeslough is due to be decided within a week. Donegal County Council has listed the decision date for the proposed development as February 19th. It was previously listed for a decision on June 12th last year, but was delayed while further information was sought. A total of 31 submissions were received objecting to the development, where 10 people died in a tragic explosion on October 7th of 2022. The permission sought by Vivo Shell Limited seeks the demolition of the existing building and the erection of a new building which will incorporate a Class 1 commercial building, a shop, post office, off-licence store and deli. It also includes toilets, including accessible toilets, staff welfare facilities, forecourt, replacement of underground storage tanks and pumps, external canopy, associated signage, and all other associated site development works, including a space for a memorial garden at the location in Creeslough. That application first went in on the 18th of April 2024, less than 2 years actually than the explosion. And there's a lot going on there. There's planning considerations. I'm not sure the local authority can consider feelings, which there are many of. But anyway, that is going to be decided, all done and dusted, it seems, next week. The Donegal News this morning. The appointment of a Donegal councillor to the Shannon diverted the resignation of 3 Fine Gael councillors in the county, the paper reveals. Senior sources in the party in Donegal have confirmed to the newspaper that 3 Fine Gael councillors, when considering their position amid disquiet and rumblings prior to the nomination of Senator Manus Boyle. Mr Boyle, who is Donegal's newest senator, signed in at Shannon Éireann on Tuesday, having been nominated by Taoiseach Micheál Martin. The Bruckless man served as a member of Donegal County Council for Donegal Town from June 24 until earlier this month. He joined Nicky Bradley, who was previously a senator since last July, having been nominated by the then Taoiseach Simon Harris. My understanding is that Simon Harris was keen for her to return, didn't feel that she had a decent enough go at it to in terms of time to establish herself. But interesting that the paper claims that the 3 Fine Gael councillors were considering resigning from the party on this issue, and that it was Manus Boyle then that got the nod. I wonder, was it a collective situation or individually? I don't know, but anyway, senior sources. So it's Jimmy Kavanagh, Manus Boyle, and who's the third Fine Gael councillor on the council? Manus Boyle, Jimmy Kavanagh, and Martin Harley. So Martin Harley was considering leaving the party if there wasn't a Shannon seat, and Jimmy Kavanagh was and Manasboyle. And Manasboyle seemed quite surprised that he was selected. It's an interesting story. As I say, I wonder, were they considering their positions within the party as individuals or as a collective, as is reported on the front of that paper today. The Derry News this morning, a community consultation regarding the future of the old Rosemont factory has been launched, which could lead to a ground-breaking transformation of the area. Glen Development Initiatives will lead the consultation on behalf of the other community groups, the Village Hub and Ballymcgorty Hazelbank Community Partnership, in which they will look to determine the needs within the area and to assess the viability of purchasing the Rosemont factory. I feel like I'm talking about Donald Trump a lot during the papers, but you know, I mean, he's saying stuff all of the time, and a lot of what he says, be it tariffs or whatever, either has an indirect or a direct impact on us, not just as a country, but even as a region. And he had committed to ending the war in Ukraine within 48 hours or 24 hours of taking office. That wasn't achieved and arguably wasn't achievable. But he's had an extensive phone call with Vladimir Putin now, and there's a couple of things were going on at the same time. So he made a call to Vladimir Putin, or received a call from him. They spoke for 90 minutes, and they talked about both of them having a desire to end the war in Ukraine. As well as that, the Putin effectively is being brought back out of the cold, so to speak, in that Donald Trump has said that he will receive him in the United States, and Putin has said that he will receive him in Russia. Now, we've gone through a very unstable time over the last couple of years, and I'm sure many of you have went to bed wondering, are we on the brink of a world war? For many of you, you've been through this before in the past, and the world just seemed to be up on its head. But this news obviously comes with consequences, because at the same time, other American officials were saying, look, Europe, it's up to you to look after Europe. The US is not backing Ukraine the same way we did anymore. We are going to focus on our problems at home. We're not turning our back in Ukraine, but they're not going to be able to keep all of they're not going to get their entire country back. They're not going to join NATO, and they're going to have to come up with a deal with Russia. What's your feelings on all of that? Because, you know, we've all as a collective have lived with this war in Europe for a while. Do you welcome the development? Do you feel that the backs have been turned on Ukraine? Do you mourn the loss of hundreds of thousands of lives? For what? For what? Because really, effectively, you know, the result probably is going to be a return to 2024 up until the start of the war, bar maybe some land being conceded to Russia. It does mean that if they want to, if this does come to pass, and who's to say it won't, that Ukrainians who want to go home will be able to go home. But some would say that it empowers Putin, and he feels that he can do whatever he likes whenever he likes. So what's your views on it? Because, as I say, it does affect us, even sort of in those moments when we think of, you know, my God, is there any good news on the news? Maybe you think it's good news. Maybe you think it's bad. Maybe you think we're kowtowing to, or not we, that the system is kowtowing to Russia. But anyway, I'll read the story. Donegal Trump held lengthy phone calls with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's leader Vladimir Zelensky yesterday, and afterwards announced it is time to stop this ridiculous war where there's been massive and totally unnecessary death and destruction. The conversation opened the possibility of Mr. Trump visiting the Russian president in Moscow, or of Mr. Putin travelling to the White House in what would be an extraordinary thaw in US-Russian relations. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said she was not made aware of any preconditions before any state visit might take place, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Mr. Trump, who vowed throughout his presidential campaign to bring a swift end to the Ukraine war, stated in a post on his Truth Social platform that his conversation with Mr. Zelensky went very well. He, like President Putin, wants to make peace, Mr. Trump said, adding that Mr. Zelensky would meet US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the Munich Security Conference in Germany tomorrow. So we shall see. I mean, as I say, what was happening at the same time was Zelensky was being told effectively, you know, you're going to have to take a deal because we're not backing you. And without the US backing, there's absolutely no doubt that Ukraine couldn't resist Russian advances. 086 60 25,000. The Independent this morning talks of more wasteful spending. and it is the Department of Arts this time. They knew about the growing cost of a doomed €6.7 million Arts Council IT project and failed to follow public spending and government's rules when trying to manage the state agency and the disastrous project. So this is effectively a computer network, a computer program to process grants. How, in under of God, could €6.7 million be spent on such a project that actually will have no benefits at all? It doesn't exist. 6.7 million was spent on something that doesn't exist now. Despite plans to tell the former Minister Catherine Martin in 23, nobody in the department raised the alarm about the cost overrun for the ill-fated project until last summer. There was fury in the Cabinet yesterday as the very, very annoyed Arts Minister, Patrick O'Donovan, revealed to his colleagues the full scale of the scandal, which he learnt about 2 weeks ago when he became minister. Now, there are some there are some questions on government as to was this kept quiet until after the election. So the opposition is suggesting you knew about this. The what's the name of that? The Auditor General, is that it? That they were in. They made some observations in relation to this. The opposition are claiming, and I presume what they're suggesting as well, is that this was kept quiet pre-election, and then the new minister goes in and is seen as cleaning up the mess. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that is what the opposition is saying. No, some of the opposition, by the way. There's many different arms of that. The Order of Jesuits has revealed the names of another 15 deceased members who were credibly accused of child sex abuse before their deaths. This is in the Mail today and carried in all papers. The Jesuits said they uncovered the names of the 15 following an examination of files relating to 37 deceased Jesuit priests. And there is a Donegal angle on this, and I'm going to return to the Tyrconnell Tribune, actually, just as they've, John and the team there have written up on this. We're going to be speaking, excuse the noise, sorry. We're going to be speaking about this a little later on. But the Tribune reports that a priest who served on Tory Island for 4 years in the 1980s is among the 15 named publicly who had been deemed to have credible allegations of abuse against minors. Dubliner, Father Diarmuid Pakey, I beg your pardon, Father Diarmuid Pakey, a Jesuit priest who ministered on the island and in the Raphoe Diocese from 1980 to 1994, was named in the Jesuit statement regarding deceased members with credible allegations of abuse, along with 14 others. The information released in the new Jesuit report detailed that there were 2 complaints of child sexual abuse against Pakey and 1 third-party complaint of child sexual abuse against him. Now, those are those that come forward, and I am conscious that maybe there potentially could be victims who haven't come forward of that person. But as I say, we'll be speaking about that a little later on, so stay tuned. And if you have anything to say on that as well, get in touch with us. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning. Up to 35,000 farmers could be docked money from their direct payments if they do not comply with new drainage rules this year. The Department of Agriculture has said that new drainage and reclamation works are no longer permitted as a general rule on around 550,000 hectare of farmland. The new restrictions come as some good agricultural and environmental conditions on peaty soil are fully implemented in Ireland. And the more I read headlines from the Irish Farmers Journal, the more I don't think I could be had with the complexities of farming. It's not necessarily just about, raising sheep, selling the lambs, raising sheep, having cattle, milking or selling on for beef. It's all the other stuff that you have to do to keep your head above water. On to the Irish Daily Star and back to global matters. Micheál Martin has said Hamas must release Israeli hostages and Israel must show restraint amid ongoing concerns that a ceasefire will end this weekend. Hostilities in the Middle East could resume on Saturday as tensions reignite. On Tuesday evening, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened to withdraw from the ceasefire and resume fighting in Gaza if Hamas does not release hostages on Saturday. It follows Hamas warning that it will delay the further release of hostages as they accused Israel of violating the ceasefire deal. US President Donald Trump, to reference him again, because he seems to be involved in everything, he says that if all hostages aren't released, that all hell will break loose on on Saturday. More difficult news for the family of Donegal soldier Sean Rooney. The trial of the men accused of killing him in an ambush attack in Lebanon in 2022 has been pushed back to 7 months. Pushed back by 7 months in the latest in a series of court delays. Private Rooney, 24, was driving fellow soldiers to the airport so they could return to Ireland for a funeral when their Unifil Jeep came under fire. The peacekeeper was tragically killed in the ambush attack, with another soldier suffering serious injuries that required hospital treatment for several months. In January 2023, 7 men with connections to Hezbollah were charged with the attack that killed Private Rooney. Only one of the 7 men charged, Mohammed Ayad, has ever appeared in court over the charges. The latest hearing in the case occurred yesterday in Lebanon when the court granted another postponement, this time by just over 7 months until September 27th, 2025. Very disappointing, I'm sure. And finally, a man who stabbed a man and beat up a pensioner in 2 random attacks has been jailed after a judge labelled him very dangerous. This is the Irish Mirror. John McGinley, 20, was jailed for 6 years and 10 months when he appeared at Letterkenny Circuit Court. One 3-year term was suspended for 3 years following his release. He's already behind bars for slashing a man with a knife in 2022. In the first incident on October 31st, 22, McGinley attacked Patrick Durning on Letterkenny Main Street. Mr. Durning was trying to hail a taxi when he felt a pinch and realised blood was squirting out of his ear and neck. He was rushed to the hospital locally for emergency treatment. McGinley was identified as a suspect and found a short distance away with a bottle in his hand, drunk, aggressive and abusive. He was pepper sprayed by Garda and arrested. When searched, a knife was found on McGinley. All right, that's a run through some of the stories in today's papers. If there's anything in that you want to comment on, please do. 086 60 25,000, your WhatsApps and texts, or give us a call on 07491 25,000.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place, Letterkenny.
Looking to upgrade your home? Ready to dine in style and lounge in comfort? Well, get ready for our sofa and dining sale happening now at Easy Living Furniture. Score incredible deals on sofas, dining sets and more. From sleek and modern to cosy and traditional, we have the perfect pieces to match your style and budget. The spectacular sofa and dining sale is now on in Easy Living Furniture. Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, Londonderry.
Love is in the air in February, says I to old Mr. Brennan. I know all about that, you see, because our famous Brennan's family pan is the loaf of my life. And it's still fresh, even after all these years. Well, says I, Mr. Brennan, you make me want to be a butter man. Brennan's family pan. Always fresh, tasty and delicious, and baked with love every single day, because anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread, today.
At My Home, we hate complicated. That's why our new app now offers a great range of features like our enhanced map search, access to My Home Eco Rating, as well as our all-important property email alerts, which means you have everything you need to find your new home right in the palm of your hand. Download the new My Home app today.
Hey, see that road sign?
Which one?
That white one with the black circle and 5 diagonal lines in the middle.
Yeah?
What does that mean again?
It now means that you should drive 60 kilometres an hour or slower.
Ah, okay. This sign on local and rural roads means drive at 60 kilometres an hour or below and always according to the road and weather conditions. A message from the Road Safety Authority. Visit rsa.ie.
Make this Valentine's memorable at Super Value with quality and delicious offers to choose from. Like succulent Super Value Fresh Irish Fillet Steak, now save 33%. Delicious Fresh Irish Strip Loin Steak, also save 33%. And available until Friday, beautiful Valentine's flower bouquets with everything from roses to lilies from €7. Make this Valentine's memorable at Super Value.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time's just about to turn 23 minutes past 9. Now, as we've been speaking about so far this morning, the Jesuit order has named a further 15 deceased Jesuits who've been the subject of child sexual abuse complaints, 8 of whom were already the subject of complaints during their lifetimes. Father Diarmuid O'Pakeen was one of those. He's a Jesuit priest who ministered in the Raphoe Diocese from 1980 to 1984. There are 2 complaints of child sexual abuse against Father O'Pakeen. There is 1 third complaint of child sexual abuse against him. Monsignor Kevin Gillespie is diocesan administrator in the Diocese of Raphoe. He joins us now. Monsignor, I suppose this information is out in the public domain. There are obviously victims of Diarmuid O'Pakeen. It's a tough issue to talk about.
It's not easy to talk about, but I suppose, Greg, it's more difficult for people to hear it and to have to take on board what has occurred, and especially if they were the victims of Father O'Pakeen in this instance. But also, as we know, it's a wider issue, and therefore it always raises that trauma that people have experienced both personally and, as we know, more widely in our communities. It raises a great trauma for people. So it is difficult, but I think it's also necessary. I suppose if you look at the statement that the Jesuits have issued, their purpose in doing so is to try to give people who may not yet have come forward to have the courage to know that if they thought they were the only ones, that they're not, and it might encourage them to come forward to get help and to get support if they themselves have experienced abuse or trauma of this kind.
With that in mind, what can you tell us about the time Diarmuid O'Pakeen spent in Donegal, where people may have encountered him, for an example?
Well, he was a very public figure long before my own time, I have to admit. But he was on Tory Island and was a very prominent activist for island concerns. And I suppose there was, I think, a documentary made in his life a few years ago about his particularly his activism for the island community life, which I suppose was greatly appreciated by many at the time. And I think that kind of compounds then the sense of disappointment and disillusionment that will come with this news or this information. Much more about his time there, I wouldn't really know. I presume he must have been a man who had an interest in the Irish language and culture. And I don't know a lot more about his other ministries or what his life as a Jesuit involved. But that would have been his prominence certainly in Donegal at the time.
Do we know how he came to be on the island, or why he was removed, or why he why he was moved?
To the best of my knowledge, he had been working elsewhere, possibly abroad. Now, I'm not sure. That would be detailed in the Jesuit statement.
Understood.
And the Jesuits were looking for a ministry for him, and he came to the diocese in that context. That was in 1980, and his departure from the island was not related to any complaints of this kind. It should be said. I think he was simply, I'd say he was simply an extremely kind of controversial figure. Something of a maverick, perhaps, in his activism for a good cause. And I would say that probably is the reason that he went back to his own order. It would have been unusual for us to have somebody from the order working in the diocese, and I think it would have been a natural thing for him to go back to his own order in time.
As you mentioned, the Jesuits say their motivation to release this type of information is to encourage others to come forward. If there is somebody listening affected by this, how does one make a complaint? What are the channels open to them?
Well, naturally, apart from both the Gardaí and Tusla, although this man is deceased, but there could be, these stories encourage others who, there may be who have encountered abuse, not just in the church, but generally, be it in family or community, to come forward to the Gardaí, to Tusla. And for ourselves, in terms of the diocese, we have our safeguarding officer in the person of Margaret Northage. You may have her details, or I can give them to you now directly. And in terms of the Irish Jesuits, concerning Father Opakin in particular, the people are welcome to contact the Jesuits directly. Again, you may have the details, or I can give them to you.
I have them here, and it might be easier for people to ring us if they need them, because there's a lot of numbers there, Monsignor.
Yes.
But we'll retain those for anyone that needs
if
them.
I could add as well, that there is also, which might be helpful for people, there are helplines there if people simply want to talk. And there is the possibility of counselling without charge for people who have been affected. And,
it's not just the victims that are affected by things like these instances of child abuse. It's their families, and it's communities as well, and often small, tight-knit communities. And with that in mind, as part of the statement released from the Diocese of Raphoe, quite an extensive apology has been made.
Yes, naturally. I don't think you can ever apologise sufficiently for something like this. Many of our parishes, as we all know, have experienced the presence of people who have been abusers, not only in the church, naturally, but we have our own responsibility in this regard. And, that trauma is there. There's a lot of healing necessary, not just for those directly affected, but more widely in the community. A lot of disillusionment, loss of trust, and bitterness as well. And so it is a long journey of healing. But there are good resources there, and people do make use of them. And I suppose we'd be encouraging anybody who does need to make use of those resources, especially in terms of counselling and reportage, to actually do so.
Okay, Monsignor Kevin Gillespie, Diocesan Administrator in the Diocese of Raphoe, thank you for your time. And I'm going to read out some numbers for you. If you are affected by that, maybe you want to grab a pen, we will have them available here for you to give us a call. And, it's not those that potentially could have been victims of Diarmuid Opakin. There are also potentially other people who were victims of this type of horrific abuse, that maybe you feel now is the time for you to seek some help, or to report, or whatever it might be best for you. But I'm also conscious that there might be people listening who do not want to, and this might make them feel worse about the situation, or bring back very horrific memories. And I apologise for that, but as you can imagine, it's very important we get the information out there. And just some numbers, if you are affected by that, and it could be abused by someone in the religious order, or it could have been in a school, or it could have been in your own home. So I do understand that these kind of conversations can be very difficult for many of you out there. But you can call the Samaritans on 116 123. There are other supports there, Aware, on 1800 80 48 48. I can't encourage you enough, if you haven't spoken out, to do so to someone in confidentiality, and to share that burden of what you might be feeling. We'll also be speaking to 114 a little bit later on to see what services they can provide you as well. You can also contact Tusla 9102233. The Garda National Protection Services Bureau is there. It's a long number. I won't read that out to you, but you can contact any Garda station in relation to this. And the Irish Jesuits can be contacted directly as well on 083 087 425454. So as I say, there's a ton of numbers there, and ways of contact and support and counselling and so on and so forth, just for those that you may need that after that conversation.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Need expert care without the wait? Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show, have you covered. Walk in Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place for expert injury and illness care. Opening offer, just €100 consultation fee.
My home is my castle. My sing in the shower place or work in my undies place. My pizza for breakfast, cornflakes for dinner place. My home is my me place.
With AXA Home Insurance, you can protect the place where you can truly be yourself and get 24-hour emergency home assistance as standard. Get a quote online or call into your local branch. AXA. No, you can. Policy terms and conditions apply. AXA Insurance Stock is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Shop Homeland's February mega deals now at your local Homeland or online at homeland.ie. Barry's or Lions 600 tea bags now €19.99, save €4. Growzone Max Greenhouse now only €99, save €50. JFC calf slats 900 by 1200mm now €105, save €21. All this and more until the 23rd of February only. Visit homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available.
Imagine a wedding venue that can be hired exclusively for you and your guests. Picture stunning views overlooking one of Donegal's most scenic beaches, an authentic country manor as your accommodation, incredible glass-fronted marquee views all day, and a team of experts who want to help you plan every step of the way. Sounds too good to be true? Not at Drumhalla House in Rathmullen. It really has to be seen to be believed. Visit drumhallahouse.ie or check out Drumhalla House on Instagram for more details.
Donegal will look to continue their fantastic start to their Division 1 League campaign this Sunday with the All-Ireland champions Armagh coming to Ballybuffet. Join me, Oisín Kelly, at McCool Park from 3:30 for the big game build-up and full match commentary. Plus, we'll have former Donegal star forward Brendan Devaney with expert match analysis.
Coverage of Donegal action in the National Football League is with Highland Motors, with the new Renault Scenic EV, European and Irish Car of the Year 2024. Renault have reinvented the Scenic with cutting-edge technology, including 610 kilometres driving range.
Okay, so you might be aware of some changes as to locations of rescue helicopters, or maybe you've seen a bit about it. You don't know exactly what it is all about. Well, we got this text in from a listener. Hi, Greg. Could you find out what's going on with the handover of rescue services in the Northwest between CHC and Bristol? It's due to take place on February 14th. That's tomorrow. The wonderful staff at Sligo don't know who they're going to be working for this Friday. It's a shambles, this whole new contract. It's vital for seafarers and medevacs, among other things. We need these vital pieces of equipment 24/7, 365, and it looks like it's not happening elsewhere. Please find out what's going on. Well, Chris Reynolds is former head of the Irish Coast Guard, and he joins us now. Hi, Chris.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, as far as you understand, Chris, what's changing?
It's quite a lot, actually. So you have one contractor leaving, CHC is leaving, and a company called Bristow, a British company, is taking over the contract. At the same time, they're not keeping the Irish staff under our national legislation, TUPE regulations. Because they're British, they say they can change the staff. So a lot of staff are changing, and the staff in Sligo haven't seen any contracts, whether they actually have a job tomorrow or not, because the transition is due to take place tomorrow, and they still don't know whether they have a job tomorrow. Is the second problem.
How was this allowed to happen like this before we dig a little bit deeper?
I don't know. I've done the last 3 transition contracts ever since 2007, and certainly I don't know how it's got so bad. My feeling is that it's been led by Civil Service and the Department of Transport, not by the Coast Guard directly, and they look like they haven't a clue what they're doing.
Because how one company transitioned to the other was the subject of a court case, a high court case, in fact, which was eventually settled late last year. But we don't obviously clearly understand the outcome of that settlement because we still are in the midst of this confusion here.
Yes, it is. I mean, what they've done is they've tried to compress the transition too tightly. And so in the last transition, we're just changing helicopter type. The staff are staying the same, the management is the same, everything is the same, just a different helicopter type. And I gave each base 3 months to transition. That was a year for all 4 bases. And even then, we didn't quite get it done in a year. Now, this contract is changing everything. Helicopter type, management teams, crews. And it's trying to do it in a 6-7 month period. It just can't be done. It can't be done safely, at least.
So the helicopter will still be based, the new helicopter will still be based where the old helicopter is?
Correct, but they don't have enough staff to crew it for 24 hours.
That's
so they've only enough
question.
Yeah, they've only enough staff. If it goes the same way as Shannon, which it will, there's only enough staff to crew for 12 hours. So Shannon is only available from 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening, and Sligo covers it then at night time. Now, if Sligo changes as well, that can only do 12 hours as well. So you're likely to have Sligo covering the night, Shannon covering the day, and 50% coverage for the West Coast.
But that doesn't mean we have the same level of coverage, of course, because the resources are incredibly stretched. If the helicopter has to travel further, and I understand these new helicopters may actually already have not have the same ability to travel as far. That sounds to me as a layperson as a severe downgrading of helicopter cover for the Northwest.
Well, there was an incident off the Northwest back in the 90s. The fishing vessel Dunboy sank, and we sent the S-61 out, and it couldn't rescue everybody, so I had to leave some people behind in life rafts, including the winchman, and go back and rescue them again. So when we changed the helicopter type, the criteria was you had to be able to fly to the extent of the search and rescue region, which is 200 nautical miles, and rescue a full crew in one load and get back. The 189 can't do that.
Right, Chris, you were the head of the Coast Guard, and you guys do an amazing job. And my word, we fought hard to retain the services where they are. That was a different battle altogether. 2007 to 2021. So you've seen it all. You've headed up an awful lot of stuff. I suppose we're maybe going over some old ground that we've covered in this interview already, but from your experience, if you could just lay it out in terms for all of us, what you believe these changes will actually mean in terms of a change of service for the Northwest and the wider country as well.
I mean, you shouldn't be able to see a huge downgrading if Bristow's have enough time to fix the problems. They've got huge problems with staffing. Their stretchers are uncertified. They don't have the right mission management systems. So this takes time. And if the changeover of the entire contract happens on the 1st of July, that's not enough time. And CHC will have taken their helicopters out of the country. So there's no plan B. So there's no fallback position if Bristow's can't get it done by July. And they won't. There's no chance they can get it done by July. Not a chance. So I think the Department of Transport needs now to talk to the current provider and say, listen, will you stay until January 2026 to give them enough time? If they have enough time, they can fix all this. Everything's fixable, but they need time.
But what would be in it for CHC? I mean, it's a company. I presume it tendered for these contracts. It lost out. It's a big ask, is it?
Well, it's a big ask, but they're a commercial company. So if you make them an offer, they'll consider it, of course. They have other contracts, search and rescue contracts, starting up now in South America and Africa. So they have homes for these helicopters to go to. But so you need to talk to them now and not leave it till July. This conversation really should have been happening months and months ago to extend the current contract. And basically we'll have 2 contractors overlapping for a 6-month period, which is not ideal. But the procurement process was flawed in the first place. It could never have happened in the timeline the procurement process envisaged. So somebody made a mistake at the very outset.
Is there an element too, though, that maybe, existing staff and trade unions are, obviously standing their ground on certain issues and their futures and what have you, and that is going to complicate this further, that it's not just necessarily about, helicopters and locations and stuff. There's a personnel issue here that could actually be the sticking point.
Well, the crews, all of the crews and all the bases are very upset. It's the reason I'm talking to you is they've asked me to talk to you. They're upset. They can't speak out and they don't know what their future is. And so obviously they'll talk to unions as well as everything else. And Bristow's have not been very proactive in actually managing them. They view this as they're a British company taking over an Irish process, and they're running it from Britain, and so they don't feel particularly bound by precedents and how we do things over here in Ireland.
Well, there's a third party in all of this as well, and that's the Department of Transport, who I presume are, the umbrella of this deal, the overarching. So, what have they been doing on this issue to try and sort of maybe intervene or make the transition more smoothly or more, or more fair for existing staff?
I'm not in the Department of Transport anymore, but it looks like they're doing very little, apart from saying everything's fine, nothing to see here, which is very, very strange way to handle this. This is why I believe this has been led by civil servants, not by the Coast Guard. There's something the department needs really needs to step in now.
What I know we've covered much of it. If the staff were on the radio now, Chris, what would they be saying? What message do they want to get out there to the greater public?
Well, if they had their way, they'd keep the S-92 and not have the 189. Now, the 189 is a fine helicopter, and pilots like it. It's a more modern cockpit. But if you think about it, if you're buying an ambulance that flies, the most important part of the ambulance is what's in the back, not what's in the front. And what's in the back of 189 is far less than what's in the back of 192. And the standard of care you can give a patient in the back of an S-92 is far greater than you will be able to do in this helicopter. So they'd say, listen, we really wanted to keep the 92, but that's not possible now. The procurement is done. So they just want to get on and convert onto the 189 and have some certainty about their future.
Yeah, and there's just been for quite some time now a sense that this whole process has been rushed and why. And in its rushing, some feel that that's what's caused all these delays and issues. Chris, just one final thing to clarify, though, just in relation to cover and what have you. Obviously, it's not just about heading out to sea or inland for searches and rescues and what have you. There are medevacs and all that type of stuff. Do you believe that there is a possibility of a reduction in cover and availability for that type of work? Because obviously, then we're starting to talk about the impact on well-being and life.
What looks like it's going to be a 50% reduction in cover, and it may be that you'll need the East Coast helicopters from Waterford and Dublin to come across. And as we saw from the loss of Rescue 116, you don't want helicopters that are not familiar with the area coming in to try to do your work, because that was one of the causal factors of the loss of 116, and that it wasn't familiar. So you don't want that happening, but that's what's going to have to happen if they can't crew the helicopters for 24 hours.
All right, Chris. Listen, thanks so much for giving us your invaluable insight. I do appreciate it. That's Chris Reynolds. He's the former head of the Irish Coast Guard. He was head of the Coast Guard from 2007 to 2021, and we appreciate, as I say, his insight into that. And given those employees who feel they can't speak, or in fact, it's not that they feel they can't speak, they're not allowed to speak a voice there.
Affidea Letterkenny MIU, proud sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place.
Do you drive 50 kilometres or less most days? The plug-in Sportage could be perfect for you. With an electric range of 50 kilometres, the PHEV Sportage gives you best of both worlds, with electric power for those daily commutes and the petrol engine for those longer journeys. Fully charging your battery for as little as €1.10, the PHEV Sportage is the perfect family SUV. Plus, it's four-wheel drive, making it perfect for Donegal roads. Come down to iMotors to get the best deal on your used car and visit imotors.ie.
iMotors, fearless generation. Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who is the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'll be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'll be them. 07491 43942.
Building a new home? Discover next generation comfort with the new award-winning Grant Airona R290 heat pump, delivering exceptional performance with quiet operation. The Grant Airona R290, heating for the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, so that's the weather, isn't it? I don't have the weather open. I can pop it open though very quickly. My apologies. Today will be mostly cloudy and mainly dry across our region. Moderate east-southeast winds will increase, fresh to strong and gusty through the afternoon and evening. Cold with highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. Now, a very important meeting, as it's seen by many, is taking place tonight. It's in the Abbey Hotel in Donegal Town. It's on an issue that we've been talking about now for quite some time on this programme, and that is the proposed move of the Donegal Education Centre from above Pier 1 in Donegal Town to Letterkenny, not far from where we are now. The wheels are very much in motion, but there is a sense amongst some that it's not too late to make the right decision, as they would see it. Councillor Jimmy Broken, of course, has been vocal on this issue. Jimmy, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Greg.
Not too bad. And I should say right from the get-go that we have tried on numerous occasions to get a spokesperson on from the Donegal Education Centre to explain this decision, the process of the decision, the logic of the decision, and so on and so forth. And we've received a couple of statements. We've received perhaps suggestions that they may talk to us, but an interview has not been forthcoming. But we have tried really, really hard to try and get to the bottom of this, the truth be told. So I suppose, Jimmy, for those just fresh to this story, can you give us a brief outline of what is happening?
Yeah, well, just before I do, Greg, just to say that we've had suggested or tried a few times to get a meeting with the committee of the Donegal Education Centre as well, the management committee, but it hasn't been forthcoming. We've emailed them and asked them, and in fact, one of my fellow councillors, Neil Colin McGill, was in touch with Martin, with the chairperson, and said that he would chair a meeting, make it over between us, and that wasn't forthcoming either. So they're just been very silent on the whole thing. You know, they're just putting their head down and hoping it'll be done and dusted, you know, before they have to say anything about it. It seems to me anyway, like, you know, like the situation is going on. But anyway, going back to the situation, there's 6 workers and staff in Donegal Town. They've been there for the longest. Have been there for 17 years, and the shortest staff member has been there for 8 years, over 8 years. And the centre itself's been in Donegal Town for 27 years. And earlier, just before Christmas, we got word, so the staff got word that the centre was moving to the mountaintop in Letterkenny. So from Donegal Town to the mountaintop in Letterkenny, given the traffic congestion and stuff around Letterkenny and Welbethay, you're looking at, you know, probably an hour and a half drive, you know, realistically, you know, each way over there and back, you know. So the staff just aren't in a situation where they can spend another 3 hours a day.
The Donegal Education Centre insists that there's been plenty of engagement with staff. They've offered blended working, remote working, you know, reduced days in the office. They say as much, they sort of suggest really that as much consultation that could be done has been done.
There's been 1 or 2 emails. There's been an email, I think, back in October time, and then an email in December. And I don't think there's been much consultation since. Now, there's also been a small number of emails with the union representative, but it's a very small number of emails as well. The union hasn't met the management committee.
The staff haven't met the management committee to discuss this. So I don't know what his idea of extensive consultation is, but it's not what I would call extensive consultations. I would call it the closest thing to no consultation.
What, if you could try sort of put this into a pie chart, how much of this is about staff not wanting to move and that's why you're backing the campaign and sort of remaining the status quo, and how much of this is about that you feel that the services being located in a more central location is not a good idea?
Well, the staff aren't in a position to move. These are they're not teachers. They're not getting paid as teachers. They're administration staff. They're not in a position to drive to Letterkenny, even if it was 3 days a week. They're just not in that position. They have families here, they have commitments here in Donegal, and when you apply for a position in an office in Donegal town, and suddenly you're told, 8 or 17 years later that you're moving to Letterkenny, then it's just not feasible, so the staff aren't in a position to move, but the other point then is Donegal town, we seem to be moving everything towards big towns and big cities. Everything that's built in Ireland seems to have to be in the centre of Dublin, and everything we have in Donegal seems to have in the centre of Letterkenny, so Donegal town's a growing town, there's plenty of houses been built and there's plenty of businesses there, but we need to increase the business in Donegal town, not take it away,
Yes, so it's also about retaining.
Two separate issues, but
yeah, okay, go ahead.
And there is, like I say, the Donegal Education Centre do have a number of people coming now and again. Every week there'll be a number of people between SNAs training and teacher training, which does take place in Donegal town, and all them people, they spend in the local businesses, they eat in the local cafes and hotels, and sometimes you have people who are coming from outside the county, coming from international places, so the hotels would benefit from that as well, and all the local businesses.
So it is about staff, but also why should Donegal Town lose? Why should Donegal Town lose this hosting this facility?
That's exactly. They're two separate issues, but they're connected to the same. And at the end of the day, it's like I say, the Donegal Town needs all the businesses it can get. The Donegal Town businesses are struggling like a lot of other businesses, and it's just there's no need for the thing to move out of Donegal Town.
Listen, there's very active Facebook groups where some teachers at least have expressed their opposition to this move. There have been other smaller meetings. Tonight it's a public meeting, is that correct? It's at 8 p.m. in the Abbey Hotel. A lot of politicians have been invited to it, and a lot of them are actually turning up, still awaiting some confirmation from others. So there seems to be some cross-party political support to retaining these services in Donegal Town. I can't imagine the politicians are attending tonight to object to this campaign.
No, well, we've had nobody objecting to the campaign, even teachers in Letterkenny and Inishowen. None of them have really any real objection to the place staying in Donegal Town. I don't know whose idea it was to move it, but it wasn't. The teachers themselves haven't been consulted either, because there's been no AGM. The AGM was supposed to be held a couple of weeks ago. We've actually another teacher or former teacher has had a copy of previous AGMs, and this has never been discussed as far as we can see at an AGM. So this decision hasn't been made by the majority of teachers. This decision was made by a small number of people. So the meeting tonight in Donegal Town is really to give the public around Donegal Town and teachers and others a chance to have their say.
I don't understand
and politicians, of course.
I mean, obviously, the Donegal Education Centre and those responsible for this decision, believe that they've consulted, they believe that they have the support, they believe this is the right way forward. But I don't understand why they've chosen not to speak publicly on this. If this is all, above board, and I'm not suggesting it's not above board, it's just a turn of phrase, then why not come on to the likes of the local radio station, the most listened to local radio station, and just answer a few simple questions? It could potentially put a lot of this to bed, but they're choosing not to. And here we are now. Okay, we'll see what the outcome of that meeting is, Jimmy. As I say, a lot of people are attending. Micheál Colin McGill-Naspig, Brian Carr, Councillor Thomas Sean Devine, Charles Ward TD, Pierce Doherty, Pat the Cope Gallagher, Senator Manna Spoyle, the newly appointed TD, Senator Eileen Flynn, and others. So there is a cross-party interest in this, which is really quite interesting.
There's not as many people. we just need as many people from around Donegal town as well, just to come along
Yeah.
and show their support for the staff and show their support for the businesses in Donegal town.
Okay, thank you very much
Thanks very much.
indeed. That's Councillor Jimmy Brogan there. And of course, if you are very much in favour or in favour at all of the move to Letterkenny, please let us know as well, by the way. We want to hear all sides of the conversation. I'm not going to lie, we have not been inundated by teachers, SNAs and others that believe this is a fantastic, great idea. It's been actually really quite the opposite.
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place, Letterkenny.
They say time equals money, so spend your money where you spend your time. No matter what your preference is, Cooney's Home Interiors has something to suit every taste and budget. With our extensive range of home furnishing to fit every room and style, from mattresses and beds to rugs, mirrors and suites of furniture. Visit us in store today and see for yourself what Cooney's have to offer, and let us help you make your dream home a reality. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Huge range, great prices.
For an efficient, mild hybrid system that doesn't compromise on the joy of driving, test drive the Mazda CX-30. This compact, stylish SUV comes with fuel-saving Mazda M hybrid technology and a 6-year warranty. Test drive the 251 Mazda range at McGinley Motors, Letterkenny. Mazda, crafted in Japan.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents Taylor Fever, the ultimate tribute to the sensational Taylor Swift, is making its way to the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny on Sunday the 18th of May. Hear iconic hits such as Ready For It, Shake It Off, Cruel Summer, Karma and many more. Tickets on sale from hotel reception and ticketmaster.ie.
Are you looking for a powerful, high-performance laptop? Think green and save big with Ben Sweeney Euronics. Discover refurbished Lenovo ThinkPads that look and feel like new, with Windows 11 pre-installed and a rock-solid 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. Why pay full price when you can save up to 70% and do your part for the planet by choosing sustainable tech? Find yours today at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, and the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Join Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind's nationwide meetups on Saturday, February 15th. Discover how you can raise our puppies into life-changing dogs, connect with dog lovers, and explore volunteer opportunities. Together we can change lives. Visit guidedogs.ie for more information.
The Nutria's Milk Replacer range, which includes NutriStart and NutriStart Plus, offers the best start for your calves this spring season with 23% and 25% crude proteins, ideal for calf to beef and heifer rearing systems. Give your calves the best possible start. Available at your local Homeland store or online at homeland.ie. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. Diocesan Administrator Monsignor Father Kevin Gillespie says talking about the revelation of a priest who served on Tory Island had received complaints of child sex abuse has been difficult to talk about. Father Dermot O'Peking was a Jesuit priest who ministered in the Raphoe Diocese from 1980 until 1984. He's now deceased. Father O'Peking was one of a number of named by the Jesuits as having been the subject of what have been deemed credible allegations of abuse against minors. Monsignor Father Kevin Gillespie says it's important the information is brought to the attention of the public so victims who have remained silent feel that they can come forward.
These stories encourage others who, there may be, who have encountered abuse, not just in the church, but generally, be it in family or community, to come forward to the Garda, to Tusla. And for ourselves, in terms of the diocese, we have our safeguarding officer in the person of Margaret Northage. You may have her details, or I can give them to you now directly. And in terms of the Irish Jesuits, concerning Father O'Peking in particular, the people are welcome to contact the Jesuits directly.
The nomination of former councillor Manus Boyle to the Seanad came following concerns within Fine Gael there would not be adequate representation for the North West region. Highland Radio News, speaking to a senior member of the party, can confirm there was confusion as to why already elected representatives were looking to be passed over for a nomination from Simon Harris, especially at a time when Fine Gael needed to be regrounded in the county following the loss of their seat in the general election. The concerns were aired up the chain of command, specifically concerns surrounding some sitting councillors considering their current positions. These have now been laid to rest, satisfied with the nomination of both Senators Manus Boyle and Nicky Bradley. A councillor in the Letterkenny Milford district says he long called motions notions because of a lack of action on the issues raised. Councillor Thomas John Devine says that before being elected to the council, he wondered what happened after a motion was raised, as often results were lacking or absent. He says while the comment was light-hearted, there's a serious truth that lies behind it.
I asked a couple of councillors yesterday while we were having a cup of tea, where does these motions go? Because, as I say, before I was elected to council, we called them notions, but nothing ever seemed to come off them. And it was recently talked about that no councillor could put on the same motion for 6 months. Doesn't matter which councillor put it on, the councillors couldn't bring up that same motion again. These motions have to be constantly brought up because nothing comes from them. And it's either funding or whatever reason why nothing comes from them. It needs to be looked at.
The trial into the killing of Private Sean Rooney in Lebanon has been postponed until the 17th of September. The Irish Daily Star reports that none of the people indicted for the attack on the peacekeeping convoy appeared in court in Beirut yesterday. The 24-year-old from Newton Cunningham was fatally wounded in the attack in December 2022. There's growing concern for a 21-year-old woman missing from Derry. Jade Kelly was last seen near Irish Street on the water side of the city at around 10 o'clock last night. She's described as being 5'5" in height with long brown hair and wearing blue jeans with a grey Hello Kitty hoodie. Those with information are asked to contact police. Local link services should be used to enhance the nighttime economy. Councillor Declan Meehan says pressure faced by taxis in Letterkenny, especially at nighttime, is well documented, as is the struggles faced by people trying to find a way home after a night out. He says he thinks a balance can be struck to avoid overly intoxicated people overburdening the service.
At the minute, Local Link are balancing that, and the last service leaves Letterkenny down to Fanage at midnight or in and around midnight. And I think that that's a really good compromise. I think it's a really good balance. You don't have, and you wouldn't expect people to be driving public transport at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning at the weekends. But I think around midnight is a really good time for final departures on services. And again, it's about boosting the country pubs and it's about boosting the restaurants.
An external review is going to be carried out into how the Arts Council manages its money. It's emerged almost €7 million was spent on a failed IT system for the agency. It's the latest controversy involving what's a waste of people's money, and Arts Minister Patrick O'Donovan says he wants to get to the bottom of it. Looking now to weather, today will be mostly cloudy and dry, some light patchy rain or drizzles possible with highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. That's all for now from Highland Radio News, back again with headlines at 11 o'clock. The obituary notices this Thursday morning, February 13th. The death has taken place of Stephen Holmes, 11 Greaves Park, Strabane, reposing at his home today from 12 noon. Funeral leaving his home on Saturday at 11:15 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Tommy McKinley, Rockhill, Portnablad, Dunfanaghy. Funeral service in St John's Church, Ballymore this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or James Harkin Funeral Director. The death has occurred of Valerie Vals McCafferty, 18 Jeffrey Avenue, Derry, formerly of Corradi Road. Requiem Mass is ongoing at St Columba's Church, Chapel Road, Derry. Interment afterwards in St Mary's Cemetery, Ardmore. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu if wished to the Macmillan Cancer Support, Northwest Cancer Centre, Altnagelvin Hospital. The death has taken place of Bernard Barney Maley, Glencar, Scotch, Letterkenny, reposing at his late residence. House private please. Funeral from there this morning, going to St Eunan's Cathedral for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations if wished to the Donegal Hospice, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.ie. highland.com.
Highland Radio.
Let's have a look at the replay. She sits on the couch, pulls out her phone, and just like that, she's in with a chance to win.
Cadbury wants you to become a supporter and a half and be in with a chance to win great prizes. From VIP football experiences to signed jerseys and a cash prize. Just visit cadbury.ie to be in with a chance. Cadbury, proud supporter of Irish women's football. Terms and conditions apply. No purchase necessary. Exclusions apply.
Okay, welcome back. We're into the second hour of the 9 till noon show. Didn't get to some of your comments in the first hour. We were so busy. Morning, Greg. Are there any public services that are actually properly staffed? Asked a listener. Any facilities without staff shortages? They continue. The Garda, HSE, etc., all understaffed. How can this be normal? I don't know, but it's not unique to Ireland. You do see this in other countries. I mean, I suppose, how much people are paid and the terms of their employment is a huge factor in all of this. There are certain people in frontline services that I don't understand why we don't actually really properly compete with them in terms of, in terms of our international competitors to try and retain them, but we seemingly don't. Here's a situation a listener found themselves in. Let's see if this resonates with you and if you want to have a conversation about it. And their contact reads as follows. I missed a call today from a Dublin number. I returned the call to find out, to my surprise, it was the Department Collection Agency. The conversation started off asking for my reference number. I explained I didn't have one, that I'm returning a call and I've no other information. I had been told that they were collecting on behalf of a hospital. This was starting to make sense. I had attended casualty within roughly the past 6 months. My issue is that a department collection agency had been tasked to retrieve money for an outstanding bill, but I've never received any correspondence from the hospital regarding money owed. I haven't received any correspondence from the department collection agency other than a returned phone call from me. I'm concerned about the process of how this is allowed to happen, but also it'd be questioning the validity of the process. First, I found it to be quite intimidating to receive a call from a collection agency, a debt collector, asking for a bill to be paid without any information in writing from the hospital or agency. Could it potentially be a scam? I would highly recommend caution to anyone in this position I found myself in. Can I ask if any of your other listeners have had the same issue we are facing? So, it's simple. Our caller got a call from a debt collection agency, which is not nice, but it was for an unpaid bill at the hospital. Now, they had never received an invoice from the hospital or a bill from the hospital or any contact from the hospital. They'd never received anything in writing from the debt collection agency suggesting that they were now tasked with collecting the money. The first they heard about it was a phone call from a debt collection agency. And there was no further information given until such time as, of course, the call was returned. But yeah, clearly in the day and age of scams, this is crazy because, you'd want some documentation, wouldn't you, to cross-reference to know exactly what the person from the debt collection agency was on about. So is this common practice? Have you received communication from a debt collection agency without ever having been invoiced from the hospital? Is this the norm? Do you have any concerns with it? Have you fall foul of scammers off the back of it? Let us know. Really interested in your view. 086 60 25,000. In relation to the education centre moving here, Letterkenny's already chock-a-block with traffic. It makes sense to keep the centre in Donegal Town where the premises are already kitted out and they are able to run down all... are they trying to run down all the smaller towns in the county, like how everything else is crammed into Dublin at the expense of the rest of the country? Teachers in North Donegal are delighted to see a more central location for the centre. It'll be more inclusive for educators across the county, says a texter. Thank you very much indeed for that. Some of you messaging in on other matters as well. The war in Ukraine began in 2014. This was not a war that was supposed to end. US military complex made a fortune and has already bought up swathes of land in Ukraine under a US-installed government, Zelensky. The Ukrainians have been used and abused, as also have Russians living in Ukraine. It's now common knowledge that at least half of the arms and money sent to Ukraine have disappeared. I mean, the US is still to give the Ukraine government security going forward. They want access to minerals in the ground there as well. So I'm not saying what you're saying isn't true, but the US still has interests that they're trying to maximise in that area. A caller says Ireland should not be worried about what Trump is doing. We're run by the EU, not the US. Right. Well, firstly, in relation to that, the reason why I read these articles, firstly, Trump has just imposed or is imposing tariffs against Europe, of which we're a member. Tariffs on all different types of products, steel and aluminium at the moment, which is going to have an impact on all of us. Secondly, Donald Trump has said that all European countries need to start spending more of the gross domestic product or the GDP on defence. It ranges from like 2.5% of GDP to 4% of GDP. So effectively, you, because of Trump's actions, could end up seeing more of your tax going towards defence, as an example. Also, there are 150,000 people in this country that are in this country, and it's been quite controversial. It's been quite welcome, depending on your point of view, that are in this country because of America's involvement in Gaza, but also obviously in terms of Ukraine as well. So everything that Donald Trump is involved in at the moment is either directly or indirectly affecting you. That's why I mention it. We can't be too close in our view and just talk about a pothole on our mountain road either, can we? No, there's no harm in talking about that either, by the way, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. But I'll read on. I saw someone get handed €700 on a dole card yesterday. I wash windows for a living and my hands are blue with the code. We need to wake up. I have to pay for everything. Declare all my earnings. Others are handed money. I think that Greg should be getting the same pay scale as someone in the dole, as he gets far more sorted on the radio than those working in the dole. Thanks. My pay is equal or less than the difference between a junior minister and a super junior minister. I don't even have the income in the gap between a TD and a junior minister, let alone what a TD is. But what I will say in relation to that is, to some extent, we don't maybe blow our own trumpets enough here. On this programme and this radio station, is that we do actually get quite a lot done, and an awful lot of it is done off air, like Caroline and Shannon. But Caroline will sort of get a contact from a listener and they're struggling. They can't get a hospital appointment, or they can't get home help, or they can't do, there's lots of different issues. And we make our inquiries, and often it's resolved before it comes on air, and then the person says, look, I don't want to speak on the radio now because we got the problem resolved. So we do get a lot of stuff done, and we do platform some campaigns that have been really quite successful and made some significant differences. So normally I'd be quite coy and say, no, we don't do much. But we do. But we do it together. You see, all of us together. Me, Caroline, you, the audience, people with the issues. We all work together for the betterment of our community. And credit where credit is due. We like to give credit where it's due. But also, if there are problems and gaps, we also need to work on that as well. What other function do we have if it's not that? In relation to reports that 3 Fine Gael councillors threatened to leave the party if the county wasn't given a second senator, I think that was the thrust of the article. A caller says, that sounds like blackmail. Will resign if our friend does not get a seat in the Senate. Thought blackmail was a crime. Oops, what's new? I think it's more of a case of if you're not going to treat us fairly and recognise our mandate and recognise that vote for us, well then why should we stick in the party? I'd say it's more to do with that than others. Right, now, someone took a photo in the hospital last night, and it's a photo taken in the emergency department, and it's someone it's someone sitting or standing close to where you would sit or stand to go to the bathroom, and there is a gap in the door, and they can see out through the gap into the ED, and they're concerned others can see into it. It is quite a large gap. I don't have the picture. For those of you that are watching, you can see it's quite a significant gap. Now, I would be inclined, if I go up to a door like that, to have a look to see if the snib was across, but it might look like people are looking in. But anyway, the caller says, thought I would send this photo in which I took in Letterkenny Hospital last night. This photo was taken in the ED from my view while on the toilet. I realised I was looking through a gap in the door at a person who was in reception. If you can see the fluorescent jacket, our hospital's an absolute disgrace. And degrading mess. So it's not the biggest issue in the world, but it's an issue that vexed that person. They're able to see out through the crack in the door whilst doing their business. We had Emer McGuinness on the show yesterday. An incredible, was going to say an incredibly brave lady, but, you know, she's an incredibly strong, independent woman. She heads up the Donegal Mart, of course, and she was found to have a gene that makes her more likely to get cancer. Her sister and mother sadly had cancer, and she opted to take the action of having her ovaries removed and a double mastectomy. And she learned at the age of 35. She learned at the age of 35 that she had this gene, and she's 47 now, she said herself. She still has some work to be done, but for the most part, she's greatly reduced her risk of getting cancer. So some of your reaction, and by the way, it's really worth watching that interview back or listen to it on our podcast. It's available from yesterday. Emer, how you managed to excel in your job and go through your health issues just shows your strength and resilience. Your story will inspire and give so much hope to many. Wishing you every blessing. Another caller said, congratulations, Emer. That was a very informative talk. Thank you so much for that. We got loads of them in. I just wanted to read a sample of it. We were also talking about the Irish language and the positive or otherwise impact. There's quite a few stories to get through here. I'm going to be going from one subject to another. But I enjoyed Kneecap the movie, says a listener, and I think they're a talented group. I find their name choice a bit unfortunate, sends shivers through some of a certain age who lived through an era where a life-changing violent act was inflicted on people in the same community who didn't share a similar outlook. No amount of comedy or clever rap can gloss over that. Sean, August, Gur Mahigut. Defence Force personnel welfare has always been an issue, says another listener, and continues to be an issue. When reported, it's brushed under the carpet. Shocking treatment. In the Galdonna area outside Newton, we are still without broadband. I was wondering if the MBI could be contacted on our behalf. It seems that it doesn't matter what network you're with. Yeah, indeed, it's the infrastructure. Leave that with us. We'll see if we can get any information for you. The new speed limits will have absolutely no effect on speeds on the roads, believes the listener. I've met 3 lorries on the Crawley to Dunlow road. All 3 lorries were on the phone. The road has loads of bends. If a lorry has an accident, lives will be lost. No drivers should be on the phone, especially lorry drivers. And also lots of people contacting me, not necessarily through the show, but off air, about these signs that have gone up. The signs that are for... often lane roads almost, where there's no speed limit on it. It's 3 black lines, and people are perplexed as to why they're there, what they do, what do they indicate. And I was listening to an ad from the RSA earlier on, and they're actually running ads to explain what these signs are. And it's a bit strange, isn't it? Stick the sign, stick the speed on the sign. Why put on a sign that the public don't know what it's for? Many of the public don't know what it's for. And then sort of admit that by having to do specific adverts explaining what it's for. So those 3 diagonal lines are 60 kilometres or less. But when you're explaining you're losing, why not just put the speed on? Is it because it looks silly and you don't want to become a meme because someone takes a picture of a road with grass running up the middle and a 60 kilometre per hour speed limit on it? I don't know what the motivation for the 3 lines is, but as I say, when you're having to spend a fortune to try and educate to the people, surely the solution is to actually put the speed limit on the sign. Maybe I'm talking nonsense. What do you think? 086 60 25,000. Good luck if you are playing bingo today. It is jackpot day.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 13th of February, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €10,000 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S14. It's game number 7. The jackpot number is 24. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 11, 62, 49, 40, 90, 87, 8, 38, 2, and finally 12. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
2025 may be well underway, but don't forget about the old tax year. Log on to Revenue's My Account to check your end-of-year position and claim any tax credits you were entitled to. If you're due a refund, you'll get it within days. If you owe us money, we'll work with you on a payment option. My Account. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free.
So he was like messaging me all night and then he just ghosted me.
No way.
Yeah. He was like, "You're so hot, I want to come over."
Okay.
And I was like, "Cool." And he was like, "I'm on my way, driving over right now."
And then?
Nothing.
Phone use while driving can be deadly. Your phone, it won't kill you to put it away. From the Road Safety Authority, visit rsa.ie.
Celebrating 50 years, McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles in Buncrana continues to be Donegal's go-to destination for stunning bathroom makeovers. With a vast selection of premium tiles and bathroom products, our showroom is your ultimate one-stop shop for crafting the perfect space. We've earned our reputation through expert advice, unbeatable prices and a dedication to customer satisfaction. Visit our showroom in Cockhill and Buncrana and see why we've been Donegal's top choice for 50 years and counting. Call us at 07493 63050.
Need expert care without the wait? Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show, have you covered. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place for expert injury and illness care. Opening offer just €100 consultation fee.
You're very welcome back to the programme and a happy World Radio Day. Radio Day today, Thursday, February 13th, marks World Radio Day. It's a global celebration of the medium that has been keeping us informed, entertained, furious, angry, happy, sad and connected for over a century. I'm not reading all of the blurb. Garrett Hart's joining me to discuss, I suppose, the radio landscape. He's owner of Heart Media and a former editor-in-chief of News Talk. Good morning to you. Thanks for your time, Garrett.
Not at all. Great, good to see you.
Are you a little bit like me too? Like, you know, primarily I'm a radio listener. I love radio. The radio's always on. I find myself now, it's quite a mix between, you know, on demand and live, and the lines are being blurred all the while. But I do love radio. I love radio stories, and I find it a really important medium. Having worked in it hasn't ruined your love of radio, has it?
Not at all, and even picking up on your point, the importance of radio as a medium in communication, I can see it even more so now as a powerful tool working on the other side, helping companies communicate. But I think what radio has that other mediums struggle with is trust, authenticity, and engagement with your audience, and I suppose it's the last bastion of trusted media, I would say, in a world flooded with misinformation on social media. And you know, the human voice on radio, Greg, has a power that no social media algorithm can ever replace and replicate.
Yeah, indeed. And you know, radio can be its own best friend, and it can be its own worst enemy as well. I do understand that, you know, the social media, for an example, can be a wild west, but it also could be a place where people feel that they can get different points of view, a balanced point of view. Whether that's true or not is another debate altogether. I do hope that we retain our independence as radio and don't, say, for instance, move to a media model in the United States where you have a red radio station or TV station and a blue one. I do feel that maybe you're seeing some of that in this country, but that for me would be the death knell of it as a respected medium.
Yeah, and you know, saying off air to Caroline, your producer, that you know Ireland has a unique radio model, unique in Europe and quite possibly globally, in that we have this really strong, robust local radio sector that, for example, the UK lost about a decade ago through lack of funding, lack of government funding, and they've paid the price for it because local media in the UK is non-existent, and that creates its own echo chamber where social media kicks in. But I think that if you look at somewhere like Highland, Greg, you know, if Highland didn't exist for a minute, the Defective Blocks campaign would not have the platform it has. If I'm a young band from Rafo, as it was many years ago, and I'm looking to get airtime, the Monday night sessions on Highland Radio, you know, hearing some new artists they wouldn't get that opportunity if a local radio station didn't exist. And then there's that public service that you provide during the storms or during a time of crisis. And we sometimes forget that, what you guys do, you don't get your fair share of the license fee. And, the government need to, really take this on, probably even more so now that Highland Radio or Red FM in Cork or Radio Kerry needs to be funded to ensure its future, and that service doesn't die.
And I get that, but it is because I don't have to pay the bills. Okay, it is something I struggle with a little bit in that. And maybe I'm bowing to a noisy minority, is that as soon as you receive state funding, there is this perception that you, and I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes some of the national broadcasting from RTE would make people feel this, that as soon as you are receiving state money, that in some way you're beholden to them. And so I, as someone, I would really hope that I'm seen as an independent broadcaster. I would never be swayed in that regard, but it's just the perception of it, and I just wonder what damage that might do to the independence of radio.
Yeah, and look, and let's not spend time going back over the RTE debacle, because there's the other side of the argument, which you're correct in saying that largesse and lack of accountability of state funding, but funding for local media can be around funding the transmission network. It can be around funding training for young graduates. I work with Learning Waves, who do a journalism graduate program where 10 graduates who want to work as broadcast journalists are trained over a 6-month period. There should be more of that. So it's not paying Greg's salary; it's paying the investment in the medium.
Part of you mentioned local radio in the UK, and I think maybe part of the problem there was a consolidation. A lot of stations being bought up. We're seeing it in the written press in this country as well. And I don't know the means to the end there, because there's so many papers that are being bought up. I don't know what's going on, but we also are seeing the likes of Bauer Media, and I do understand that you were part of the startup with News Talk, but buying up a lot of sort of regional stations, independent stations. I went down to the awards recently, and every table seemed to be a Bauer table, right? I have no problem with that. And I know the people that work for these various stations, and I know they're independent and do their own thing for their own areas. Is that anything of a concern that we could end up with, maybe one or two big players, like, say, for instance, RTE state funded, and the likes of a Bauer Media that controls much of everything else?
Yeah, look, yes is the short answer. I think the commission demand, the regulator's job is to ensure that you don't have that lack of diverse voices, and that the smaller players can survive. But again, it's back to it's back to the basic economics that it takes money to run a business, takes money to invest in journalism, takes money to do outside broadcast for Donegal GA matches, and Highland isn't a charity, or Midlands 103 isn't a charity. It's you have to run it precisely as a business. So there's going to be consolidation for sure, but I don't think we're going to get to a stage where we only have one or two big players. But I think what the Bauers have done in a positive way is they have amplified the ability of radio to reinvent itself. What I mean by that is that they've driven the audio on demand, the podcasting, and what that has done is it's introduced a younger audience to all radio. So Highland benefits from that, as well as Bauer, and other media have struggled with that. TV has struggled, print has struggled. So radio has reinvented itself, and I suppose the big players bring new ideas and are able to do that at a pace which everybody else benefits from, I would say.
Yeah, we've tried throughout broadcasting, but particularly on this program because of my own interests. We've been live streaming the show to try and reach different people for a long, long time. podcasting the show, getting the podcast available immediately after we get off air, so people have that access. Trying to do that. I'm very interested in the BBC model and the BBC Sounds app, in that they have blurred the boundaries between what you're listening to live versus what you're listening to that is recorded. It's almost interchangeable. I find myself listening to The World Tonight at 11:30, but it's broadcast at 10, but it just fits perfectly into my setup. There are other shows that I would listen to live. I listen to a lot of Irish media, don't get me wrong. But do you see that's where we're going as well, whereby there is... that the radio stations don't become irrelevant? It's just that there's the lines are a wee bit more blurred as to when people listen. They listen on demand when they want to and listen live when it suits them. That's the future, isn't it?
Absolutely. And look, I do think you're due credit in terms of what you guys did in getting out first with the live streaming. And I would routinely watch your show, Greg. I wouldn't listen to it, so as we're doing today. So those innovations and again, Highland taking a position to say we want to be leading out on this. So that's to ensure you're relevant to a younger audience, and also that I can watch you sitting in Sydney or sitting in New York at different times of the day. So that's the power of the medium as well, that you can do that probably in a pretty cost-effective way as well.
I'd be embarrassed to tell you how cost effective it is. Have you seen how we covered the local elections? We're in live audio and video from every local centre, and to say it was a shoestring. But anyway, it was effective. Garrett, just on your own career, because we're very proud to have you as a Donegal man as well, and your role in the radio landscape, really, really quite significant, much of it behind the scenes. And I don't have all the details, so I'm going to sort of rely on you to blow your own trumpet a little bit here. But I mean, obviously you were there and pivotal in the startup of News Talk, which shook up the national radio scene. It gave a different outlet, maybe different opinions, different angles, different voices. And I suppose either by intention or as it developed, it kind of changed the Irish current affairs debate, the Irish current affairs way it's done, a different player in town. I mean, how much of that was a conscious decision, and how much of it sort of came as soon as the entity was developed and grew?
Well, look, if you go all the way back, like I was the very first person hired before News Talk had a name, before it had a studio, before it had a schedule of presenters. So you were very much with that blank page. And myself, the guy Jerry Gilroy, who set up Off the Ball, and a journalist from Derry called Mary Minahan, who's now with the Irish Times. We were the first three. So we actually were given this job to go away and come up with names of presenters and screen tests and so on. But if you go back there, what is 22 years ago, it had at that stage, our only rationale or our only uniqueness was we had to sound entirely different to RTE in everything we did, because there was no point in trying to ape RTE, because we'd always be viewed as the poor relation. So we would have been really hard on ourselves that after every week we reviewed our output, and if we sounded anything like RTE, we failed. There's no point in doing it. And I think that instilled a competitiveness, and that sort of a feeling that we needed to be different in everything we did. So whether that was sports coverage with Off the Ball at night, whether that was George Hook, who presented the Drive Time show, who had his own style, or whether that was in terms of Sean Moncrief in Sunday afternoon, who sort of usurped wit. And I remember distinctly the day, Greg, where we had a big celebration because we got 50 texts to the station that week. Because 50 people now had listened to the station, and I think the station now over 500,000 people listen to it every day. So yeah, look, it was a great time. Probably a one-off, never to be done again.
But it had been tried before, though. It had been tried before, or people would have had ambition. It just had the right people in it at the right time. And you want it to have a unique sound, but also you have to maintain all the integrities, don't you? So you have to sound different, but you don't want to sort of start a race to the bottom war either. So you had to create a station that sounded different, felt different, but also had equal integrity. And there's a lot of balls to keep in the air.
Yeah, and looking back on it, you'd say we got everything right. Of course, we got lots of things wrong and things didn't work, and we made lots of mistakes. And you look back with rose-tinted glasses, and it was tough. We were through the recession. There was no advertising. People had to be laid off. So there was lots of tough times.
Yeah.
But I think I always use an example that we had a very, very invested board of directors and people who funded it. And I remember when we launched National, which was a massive feat in itself to go from a Dublin station to a national station, and we were all patting ourselves on the back, and a lady, always remembered, rang up from Clifton and said, "I can't get news talk in Clifton," and our board of directors viewed that as a bigger failing than anything, that we'd missed one listener in Clifton. So we needed to sort out the transmission in Clifton. So we're always beating ourselves up over
Clifton in what county is Clifton in again?
Clifton, Galway.
Galway, okay, yeah, right.
So
okay.
Over in the
Oh, I know that because I know you stuck.
extreme.
I remember you stuck a transmitter in Northern Ireland too, very close to 105. But that wasn't your decision.
Yeah.
That wasn't your decision, of course. That was the BAI at the time. Good times though, and competition is good. When you've seen what can be established, sorry to be going, but when you see what can be established in terms of, you were also part of the startup team for TV3 at the time, now Virgin Media, but also News Talk as well. That are they're doing okay, right? In terms of listenership, great, but also viable, which is done based off sales teams going out there, competing in a competitive market against Google, against Facebook and everything to try keep the lights on and keep people paid and doing that successfully. When you see, and I'm not bashing RTE, right, but when you see, after everything that went on at RTE, a cheque effectively for 750 million euro being signed, and effectively a blank check because it covers multiple years without a real clear business plan. As someone who's done it in radio and TV, and you know the commercial ins and outs of it, how does that make you feel?
Well, look, I probably look at it in the round, Greg, and I'm not trying to be political here, but RTE needs to be properly funded, because we need the investigative documentaries to unearth, what's happening in our healthcare or what's happening in central government. And small stations can't do that. They're not set up to do that. So we need that. The difficulty in RTE is that it's been poorly managed for decades. So it's very difficult to introduce change overnight. But unless they started out in the short term, I think the public that phrase we use, can move the dial easily. So the funding that they got, they probably need funding, but my point would be that the Highland radios and the radio carries and the WLRs in Waterford, they also need to be funded to have a level playing pitch. And I know your point that funding, sometimes people say you're funded by the government, and you're being paid to say that, Greg. Or I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the investment.
Exactly. And I would
never,
we would never become not independent. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the station either. I was speaking literally just as, I know the flack. I know what the flack I might get for it. Right. Fast forward 5 or 10 years, we got the recent book of listenership figures out there again, and you just wonder when you're gonna, is it this one you open where the whole arse falls out of it? But yet radio and independent radio as well continues to be really, really strong. 8 out of 10 people that listen to radio listen to Highland Radio every week. It's remarkable. 50% of people in Donegal that listen to radio don't listen to any other radio station. Now, they need to wobble their heads because I think it's good to get different views on stuff. But I very much appreciate it. But Where is it? Where is radio in? I think 5 years it might be very similar, but where is local radio or even national radio in 10 years?
Well, I look at the student graduate program that I work with. So 10, 18, 19, 20-year-olds who want to get into broadcasting. A great hear from Dorn, Derek Carr, who's working here in Dublin, was on it. So they're multimedia journalists. So they record audio, they record video on their phone, they write a story for the website. So they are a multimedia journalist that's feeding into a radio station that's got a website, that's got social media, Twitter, X, Facebook. So the future is going to be how radio can continue to reinvent itself. And I do think the growth in audio podcasts, audio on demand, will allow radio to have that strong market position at an expense of TV because it's more costly. And also with print, even though print has the ability to connect, it just, again, doesn't have the same ability to reinvent itself. So if we're here 5 years' time, I think it'll be still as robust as it has been. I do think there needs to be investment in journalism, young, that if I'm sitting in St. Eunice College or I'm sitting in the convent and I want to be a journalist, that I should say I want to do it with Highland, and I'm going to be able to get paid as an apprentice rather than saying I've got to come to Dublin and work for News Talk. And that's really where I suppose the missing piece for me is if the government and the state is intent on dealing with disinformation and misinformation, then the way that they can deal with it is by investing in local trusted media.
For sure, but I think that it's really important that journalists and the new journalists are as independent as possible. And I've said it on this show before, it's actually far easier to be fair than it is to be biased, because fair is sort of default. And we are, I think it's going to be very interesting, because I think there's a triangle: social media, websites, or podcast hosts, and on air, and radio's kind of useful in that it can direct people in different directions. Newspapers, it's slightly more difficult, because if you've got a website, you are actually firstly trying to get a model for people to buy, and there's not a huge appetite for that. But also you're competing with your paper product, whereas with radio it's a little easier in that you can push your audience in different directions. Well, long live radio. That's what I say. Long after I've packed it in. Garrett, listen, great chat. Thank you so much, and really interested to hear more of the influence you've had on the media landscape in this country. There's no doubt about that, with the emergence of independent media as well. Garrett, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, bye-bye. Take care. That's Garrett Hart there, owner of Hot Media. He's former editor-in-chief of News Talk. He was also part of the startup teams at both TV3 and News Talk. To celebrate Happy World Radio Day, we have a goodie bag here to give away. A Highland Radio goodie bag. Simply tell us how long we've been on air. What's our birthday this year? We're in our mid-30s, right? Just WhatsApp or text 08660 25000. You name your answer and where you're from. We'll keep it open just for 5 minutes and announce a winner thereafter. So if you want to win a Highland Radio goodie bag, just answer the simple question: how long has Highland Radio been on air? What birthday are we celebrating in the coming months? Well, it's all year, really. And we'll give you a Highland Radio goodie bag. I'll shut that down and announce a winner after this break. So get your phone out, 08660 25000. How long has Highland Radio been on air?
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, proud sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer, €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place.
Row between breed societies and ICBF escalates. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, ICBF defends its star ratings amid ongoing controversy. Beef prices rocket to hit €7 per kilo. Over 13,000 farmers awaiting acres payments. New ploughing and drainage rules for your farm payments. Will felling licences be suspended for storm damaged forestry? And in our planning permission special, we examine how environmental restrictions are stopping local people building homes in rural Ireland. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
5TD6 I don't believe this.
Oh no! What do you mean expired?
No way, I didn't even think.
Oh, for the love of...
Don't be that person. Always check your passport in good time before you travel. If you need to renew, apply at ireland.ie/passport online. It's easy. It only takes 10 minutes and is the cheapest way to get your new passport. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Ah, the difference fragrance makes in a woman.
Treat your Valentine to top brand perfumes from McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny.
What are the different types of fragrance?
Choose from Chanel, Lancôme, Ralph Lauren, Yves Saint Laurent, Prada, Christian Dior and Jimmy Choo. Clarins, Flowerbomb, Gucci, Calvin Klein and Burberry.
The perfect gift at the perfect price. Designer perfume from McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Making the move away from diesel? Don't get confused. Get excited at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Experience the power of choice. From our unrivaled hybrid range with no plugging in, to plug-in hybrids and the fully electric BZ4X, we have the right car for you. With incredible offers, including power-up boosters of up to €2,500, make the move at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world. T's and C's apply.
Here at Braden's House to Home Interiors, Moville and Bridgend, we stock recliner and fabric suites, dining tables and chairs, beds and mattresses, curtains and rugs, and don't forget our large flooring department stocking carpet, vinyl and laminate flooring. We can't be beaten on price or quality and give a weekly delivery service to Donegal, Derry and Strabane, not to be matched. So call in today to Braden's House to Home Interiors, Moville or Bridgend for all your home furnishing needs.
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place, Letterkenny.
Looking to upgrade your home? Ready to dine in style and lounge in comfort? Well, get ready for our sofa and dining sale happening now at Easy Living Furniture. Score incredible deals on sofas, dining sets and more. From sleek and modern to cosy and traditional. We have the perfect pieces to match your style and budget. The spectacular sofa and dining sale is now on in Easy Living Furniture. Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry, Londonderry.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
A roig obair an Garda de Hail, agus mé mar blachtra le 25 bliain an nuas, dhéal alles le gachéin sais corúlacht, mar hampla, dúnmharathe, robáil agus untícnéise. An rud camónta unta go léir ná ísfortig. Tagan daoine ag lecleat agus iad a mna lás dúthlánaí gan na saoil. Thógus ísfortig slán ó cásanna éigeandála go raibh a saoil am mhail, san áit be cheart over bheith sa bháilta ina baile hain. Is freigracht mór é seo agus tá mé fíomhródúil as an obair atá dentagum son gachéile íosfartaigh thar na blianta. Is obair deacair é, ach, cha mé rá is obair fiúntach é. Denirtas ag publicjobs.ie.
Row between breed societies and ICBF escalates. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, ICBF defends its star ratings amid ongoing controversy. Beef prices rocket to hit €7 per kilo. Over 13,000 farmers awaiting acres payments. New ploughing and drainage rules for your farm payments. Will felling licences be suspended for storm damaged forestry? And in our planning permissions special, we examine how environmental restrictions are stopping local people building homes in rural Ireland. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Now, today will be mostly cloudy and mainly dry across our region. Moderate east to southeast winds will increase fresh to strong and gusty through the afternoon and evening. Cold with highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. Now tonight, Well, rain will spread into the region in a northeasterly direction. Falling is sleet on high ground. Windy also with fresh to strong gusty east to southeast winds. Lowest temperatures of 0 to 4 degrees. So it is possible, I'm not saying it's probable, but it is possible that on your commute to work or school or as a caregiver or whatever it might be, a home help, that on the higher ground there might be some sleet or slush. So just keep an eye out on that. Now, as you would know, there is an ongoing recruitment campaign on Garda Síochána is ramping up its efforts to take on new members. This is part of the latest recruitment campaign. It launched last Thursday. And with that in mind, we have coming into studio after 11 o'clock Detective Garda Emer Hassett. Now, Emer is a guard who was involved in something else, studied for something else, then decided to join the force. And I'm just wondering, maybe some of you out there, any age between 18 and 49, that were considering joining on Garda Síochána, maybe you've got some questions about it. Maybe it's about the process, maybe it's about the conditions, maybe it's about life, maybe it's about, I don't know what it is. But get them into us, 086 60 25,000. If you have any questions about, the life of a guard or becoming a guard, obviously we're not going to dig too deep into Emer's own personal situation, but certain questions hopefully she could give us some guidance on. So as I say, if you've any questions in that regard, 086 60 25,000, or if you want to give us a call, it's 074 91 25,000. The lines are closed now, by the way, for a Highland Radio goodie bag. Thanks for all of you entered. I'll announce a winner very shortly. Right, so any questions about becoming a guard or being a guard? Remember, you can apply now up to the age of 50. Get in touch with us, 086 60 25,000. Right, Nellie's at Charlie's Cafe in Ardra. Are you working, Nellie? Hopefully you are. It's great. Hello, everyone in Charlie's Cafe in Ardra, if you're listening. Or maybe Nellie's in the background and it's just staff. Either way, you correctly answered for 35 years, and we will get a goodie bag out to you. Hopefully it is a goodie bag. Some of them are middlingy bags, but this is a goodie one, is it? Thanks very much, and thank you for listening. A caller says, I've been listening to Highland Radio all of my life. I worked in a factory for 20 years. A new manager came in. The work was monotonous, but Highland kept us going and kept our minds working. The new manager switched the station to 2FM. We put down our tools and we refused to work. Thankfully, we got Highland Radio back. It is what got us through the day. Wow, that's lovely. Any other stories like that, I'd love to hear, by the way. Not to... So it's not about like, yay, we're great, tell us how great we are. But that's a lovely story. And they down tools. We nearly had a strike because 2FM went on. But they wanted Highland on and they have it back, and that's great. Any feedback like that, really appreciated. Thanks so very much indeed. Please let people know there are very dangerous branches sticking out on the Manor to Lifford Road. It's halfway between Manor and Ballinaleki. So if you're on that route, check it out. Hi, Greg. I did home help for 22 years. I fell and broke my leg in 2 places. I'm not fit to go back to work. I asked about redundancy. I was told, no, home helps are not entitled to redundancy. I think that's so unfair. It does feel unfair. You've put in a great bit of service there. Another caller says, hi, I'm claustrophobic. And where there are toilets suitable for all persons, i.e. wheelchair bearers, elderly and disabled, such as Casualty at Letterkenny Hospital, these toilets are unsuitable for me as it's a hidden turn lock and not a visual half-moon slide over mechanism which provides more visual control over a door lock. Also, these doors are heavy and have no gaps at the top or bottom of the door, resulting in a very closed, confined space. For me, I overcome this by getting a family member to stand outside the door as it's unlocked. More care needs to be given when designing these door locks to enable all disabilities, including hidden ones. Thank you. That's really interesting. I appreciate it. And be interested to talk to you about your day-to-day life as a claustrophobic, how that impacts on you and car travel and all that type of stuff and how it manifests itself. Because often with hidden conditions, there could be thousands affected by it because it's a hidden condition we don't know. I'm not going to knock President Trump's policy. That's the US's business, says a listener. However, I'm going to mention when back in 1995, when Sinn Féin held a peace agreement, 500-plate dinner in a downtown Manhattan hotel with Jerry Adams and Mr. McGuinness, Trump came to that dinner. I saw him as I and many other Irish young people attended. Also, a lot of Irish American and other business people there too. Trump wanted peace for Ireland as well. A caller says, I think letters are a far more reliable and secure way to relay information. At least they are numbers where you can direct any inquiries. What would the public like to receive the most, a letter or an email? I think that it's harder to tell if emails are a scam. In relation to our listener, who the first contact they got about a bill from Letterkenny University Hospital was a telephone call from a debt collection agency. This caller says the same thing happened to me last week. A collection agency was telling me that I owed the hospital money. My daughter told me that it was a scam. It was very upsetting to me that I owed someone money, even though I didn't. That's why they have to be extra careful. A caller says maybe this government might start looking after the indigenous business when the money runs out from these multinational companies. Who's going to pay for all these ministers, super ministers, etc., etc.? Decent question. Back with the news after these.
Need expert care without the wait. Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show, have you covered. Walk in Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place for expert injury and illness care. Opening offer, just €100 consultation fee.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents Taylor Fever, the ultimate tribute to the sensational Taylor Swift, is making its way to the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny on Sunday the 18th of May. Hear iconic hits such as Ready For It, Shake It Off, Cruel Summer, Karma and many more. Tickets on sale from hotel reception and ticketmaster.ie.
We all love to get the most out of things, like a sunny day, while it lasts. In Ireland, it can be hard to get enough vitamin D from the sun. But did you know that 90% of us also don't get enough vitamin D from the food we eat? The great news is, Avonmore Supermilk is fortified with vitamin D, helping us to absorb calcium for healthy bones and supporting the immune system too. Avonmore Supermilk, the most super our milk can be. Figures based on FSAI 2023 vitamin D study.
The speed limit on many rural local roads has been reduced from 80 to 60 kilometers per hour. As speed contributes to a third of fatal collisions, this greatly reduces the risk of death and keeps everyone on the roads safer. Your local authority has implemented the 80 to 60 kilometer reduction on your road network. Slower speeds, safer roads. Visit gov.ie/speed limits. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Bridgend Bureau de Change is now open at Rafferty Circle K Bridgend for all your euro, sterling and dollars. Contact Bridgend Bureau de Change at Rafferty Circle K Bridgend. Planning a wedding or caravan fees to pay? Call into Rafferty Circle K Bridgend for all your currency needs. Bridgend Bureau de Change, the #1 Bureau de Change in County Donegal. Authorised and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's the Highland Radio 35th Birthday Bash, and we are throwing one big party to celebrate. Join us for our birthday concert on Monday the 31st of March in the Mount Errigal Hotel with a huge lineup of stars, including Michael English, Jimmy Buckley, Patrick Feeney, Hugo Duncan, Claudia Buckley, Connell Gallen and me, David James, all accompanied by my new band. Tickets are only €30 and are on sale from the hotel reception and online at highlandradio.com and usual retail outlets. Overnight packages are also available. Let's celebrate 35 years of Highland Radio together with a special night of music.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
All right, it is 11 o'clock and it's time for a news update. And it's good morning once again to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The nomination of former councillor Manus Boyle to the Seanad came following concerns within Fine Gael that there would not be adequate representation for the North West region. Highland Radio, speaking to a senior member of the party, can confirm there was confusion as to why already elected representatives were looking to be passed over for a nomination from Simon Harris. The concerns were aired up the chain of command, specifically surrounding some sitting councillors considering their current positions. These have now been laid to rest. Monsignor Father Kevin Gillespie says it's been difficult to discuss the revelation that a priest who served on Tory Island had received complaints of child sexual abuse. Father Dermot O'Peking was a Jesuit priest who ministered in the Raphoe Diocese from 1980 until 1984. He's now deceased. The Jesuits named him among several priests who they deemed allegations of child sexual abuse to be credible. You can find information for support services if you've been affected by the story attached to our online article on highlandradio.com. A councillor in the Letterkenny Milford district says he long called motions as notions because of a lack of actions on the issues raised. Councillor Thomas Sean Devine says before being elected in the council, He wondered what happened after a motion was raised, as often results were lacking or absent. He says while the comment was light-hearted, there's a serious truth behind it. An external review is going to be carried out onto how the Arts Council manages its money. It's emerged almost €7 million was spent on a failed IT system for the agency. It's the latest controversy involving a waste of taxpayer money. There's growing concern for a 21-year-old woman who's missing from Derry. Jade Kelly was last seen near Irish Street on the water side of the city at around 10 o'clock last night. She's described as 5 foot 5 inches in height, with long brown hair and wearing blue jeans with a grey Hello Kitty hoodie. And finally, life-saving equipment has been tampered with in Newton Stewart. Police received a report and discovered that at least 10 pieces of equipment were either missing or rendered useless along the Riverwalk at Playing Fields. Police are now asking anyone with information to come forward. That's all for now from Highland Radio News. Back again at 12 noon.
Donna Marie, thanks very much indeed. Okay, we're going to be talking to Detective Garda Emer Hassett very, very shortly. If you have any questions, get in touch with us. It's part of the Garda recruitment campaign, and it's give more of an understanding as to what might be in it for you. All right, we'll take a break. Back in about 2.5 minutes.
Ah, Valentine's. The lights are low, the wine is chilling, the kids are in bed. The kids are back out of bed and want you to read another story. At least you got your dinner to look forward to. From February 12th, up to 30% off Aldi's award-winning specially selected steak range, including 2 Irish Black Angus strip loin steaks, now only $6.99. If you ever make it back downstairs, that is. Good food, good mood, from Aldi, while stocks last.
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, proud sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place.
Irwin Expert Electrical, your trusted destination for all things home appliances, electrical and entertainment in the Northwest. With over 50 years of leading the way, we pride ourselves on offering a diverse range of products under one roof. From top brands like LG, Samsung, Cooker, Bosch, Apple and more, take advantage of our free layaway service where you can store your new items until you're ready for them. Perfect for renovations and new build projects. Visit Irwin Expert Electrical today in Letterkenny or Buncrana.
Go full Lidl this Valentine's Day with a romantic meal for 2 for just €14. Let your heart choose a mouth-watering main, 2 heavenly sides and an indulgent dessert. And the perfect match? Our classic Italian Chianti Reserva, only $8.99 on Lidl Plus. Go on, go full Lidl this Valentine's Day. Get the facts for Drinkaware, visit drinkaware.ie.
At PTSB, we're making it easier than ever for our customers to save. Whether you want to save little and often, or invest a lump sum, you can open a savings or deposit account in-app today. And with the confidence that comes with knowing your money is earning interest, it all comes together for a banking experience that's altogether more human. PTSB. Open in-app and start earning. Over 18, PTSB personal customers registered for online banking only. Number of accounts per customer may be limited and subject to a minimum and maximum balance. Qualifying criteria, terms and conditions apply. Permanent TSB PLC, trading as PTSB, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Hello, Jedward speaking. Sorry, Edward speaking.
Hey bro, I'm glad you picked up.
Who is this?
It's me, John. I'm literally outside in the landing.
I don't know any Sean. Lose my number. Hello?
Edward, don't hang up. I'm sorry for saying a handyman could fix the gas boiler. Please forgive.
Always use a registered gas installer, or you could risk everything. Find one at rgi.ie.
Valentine's Day is almost here. Still looking for the perfect treat for your special someone? Make this day unforgettable with a gift from Pandora. Don't wait until the last minute. Visit us now in-store and online at pandora.net to find the perfect symbol of love.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
It's 6 minutes past 11. We're in studio now with Detective Garda Emer Hassett. Emer, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today.
How are you keeping?
Good.
Good stuff. We're speaking in the context of the Garda recruitment campaign, which was launched last Thursday and runs until the 27th of February. And the organisation is urging prospective candidates to apply. when you, I'm just wondering when you got the notion that this could be for you in second level or third level. Did you study with an interest in the Guards at that time?
God, no. No, I never thought it was going to be on the cards for me. I went to Mary Immaculate College. I did an arts degree. And when I completed that, I was just at a bit of a crossroads. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And the recruitment campaign opened up then, and it was something that I think my parents mentioned it to me, good state job. But no, I just kept an open mind. I applied for it. I went through the different kind of stages of the recruitment process. And then I kind of found myself in Templemore, and despite myself, I actually really enjoyed my time down there and my training as well.
Yeah, I saw an interesting quote from you where you said, "I never saw myself as the type to be a Garda." What's the type?
Yeah, well, I suppose there might be
kind of, because I'm thinking, well, I suppose what is the type?
Yeah, I suppose there might be like a public perception of certain people that they might be maybe great in the Guards, but really, like, what we're looking for is people from like all different backgrounds,
different skill sets.
Yeah, and like there's lots of people that come into the Guards, that have worked like in all different types of areas, whether it's like the fire brigade or banks or teaching, or I've worked with people who were engineers, but they just wanted maybe a job that was more dynamic and different every day, and I suppose as well as part of this campaign, we're trying to push like for more women to apply for the job. That there's great opportunities and just people from all different backgrounds and demographics.
As a woman, did it ever cross your mind that this wouldn't be for me, that it's a male-dominated... now, I deal with a lot of female Guards, so I don't really necessarily see how this would be a perception, but it's your story, isn't it, right? Did your own gender factor any into your decision-making process?
Well, I knew a few female Guards prior to applying as well. I suppose, like, it's always a consideration. It can be quite a dangerous job, but as part of our training, we do, get self-defense training. We are equipped with certain equipment, and it really is all about, assessing every situation as you go into it. And you're never by yourself in this job unless you put yourself in that position, So
and you can have women that are stronger than men, taller than, you know what I mean? There's lots of variables that balance it out. It's only really a perception, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the time we just de-escalate situations, with our words.
Yeah.
As such, women are probably better at that as well.
Probably. So when you went into Templemore, it was still kind of suck it and see for you, wasn't it? How long through that process did you sort of say, right, I've found my career here?
I really enjoyed the training process. Like, I got on great with all my classmates. I'm still friends with quite a lot of them. And, it's like any other college experience. You make friends, you have a social life, you're involved in clubs and societies. And I suppose, but the difference in Templemore is that you've your accommodation provided for you and you're paid while you're there as well. So there's lots of benefits to that.
And how long are you in Templemore for?
So at the moment, the training's changed a small bit since I joined. So you go down for 11 weeks for kind of some initial training. Then you come out for 11 weeks as a student now, and you go to like a station in your own county so that you can go to work, and you're shadowing other Guards as they go to their calls and as they deal with work every day. And then you're back in for another 11 weeks then to finish off your training in Templemore.
Was the middle 11 weeks, the second trimester, I suppose, was that an eye-opener, right? Because whatever you're being taught in college, whatever your perception is, whatever your engagement with the An Garda Síochána up until then, at this point now, you're out with a colleague and you're seeing what the actual day-to-day can be. So what was that experience like, that 11-week window of, well, we'd call it work placement, whatever you might call it?
Yeah. Well, listen, it can be daunting at first, but you're placed onto a unit. You're assigned a tutor guard, and they're kind of like your go-to for guidance. And like, you're just shadowing. And I suppose everything that you're learning in Templemore, then you're seeing how to put that into practice, from a practical point of view.
So you did that 11 weeks in Clare. Once you went through the process, 36 weeks in it, what happens then? Are you appointed to a station?
So what happens then just before you leave Templemore is you're assigned a probation phase, I suppose, after you've qualified, and we have our passing out parade is what it's called, where we pass out through the gates of Templemore and we get our badge and all that.
Which I'm sure was a very proud moment for your family, actually, and
yeah,
personally.
Yeah, no, it is a great day, and it's usually a great celebration in Templemore, you know. And then you get assigned your station. So realistically, you could be sent anywhere in the country. It's really wherever the resources are needed. It's kind of what's going on, you know, maybe in the current climate at the time. And then you do your 2-year training phase. And then after that, then if the location doesn't suit you, you can look to move, you know, or a lot of people move then through progression in the job. They might apply for different units. They might look to be promoted.
Yeah, and after the 36-week training, a Garda starts on a salary of €37,311, which rises then incrementally. Where were you assigned to?
So I was based in Tullamore for about 4.5 years.
So you didn't have far to go, really. You passed out the door and straight into the local Garda station.
No, well, Tullamore is
Templemore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Templemore. This is why I didn't apply. Sorry, you went to Tullamore, right?
Tullamore, yeah. So I was there for about 4.5 years. Yeah, so that was quite good in the Midlands because you got to work at a lot of festivals. I worked at Electric Picnic every year when I was there. And then I looked to move to Donegal then for personal reasons. My partner's from Donegal. So.
Okay. And you've moved up the ranks. What has your progress been like in terms of what would be seen as normal? Because now you're a detective. So you go from a guard to detective, is it?
Yeah, well, in this current role, so I'm attached to the Divisional Protective Services Unit. And that was a competition. It comes out maybe every few years, maybe 2-3 years. And there's different units that you can apply for. So I applied for this competition and I was successful. You do like an interview process.
So you promoted then from a guard to detective?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. And you were in Donegal when you applied for this role?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, brilliant. And that means that you looked at the work that this department does and you thought, right, I have an interest in this. I believe I can make a difference. Or what was your motivation for trying to get into this unit?
Well, the Divisional Protective Service Unit, it's a dedicated investigative unit, and we investigate sexual crimes, human trafficking, suspected child abuse, and domestic violence. So basically, it's a dedicated unit to investigating these types of crimes because they are some of the most serious, you know, incidents and offences that we will investigate. And it's all about, you know, giving a professional service to the people who do come forward to report them, and so that we are consistent as well with our contact, because obviously guards on the regular units can be very busy, you know, they're response units and they're going to different calls. So it's all about us being able to guide them through what can be a very difficult process, you know, and just being like a point of contact for anyone that reports those.
How important is it for you in this job where you would be often hearing some of the most awful situations and seeing people in awful situations? How difficult is it for you to sort of separate your work life and your home life?
It can be difficult sometimes, but in fairness, there is good supports within our job. We actually have like a counselling support system dedicated for our unit, you know, and we avail of that twice a year, you know, just to check in with us.
Nothing's getting bottled up and anything that might be there is discussed, because it's high. As I say, this is some really desperate situations you'd be dealing with.
There's been a lot of change within the job in the last few years as well, you know, to kind of focus on wellness of members, you know, and there's a lot of services there for us as well.
And obviously it's with a means to an end to help people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, really. I mean, I suppose our mission statement really is keeping people safe, you know, and as part of this recruitment campaign, it's all about it's a job worth doing. You know, and we're a service to the communities, and, you know, it's all about giving a good service to the communities and helping them in any situation that they might find themselves in, that they have to come and report something to us.
Yeah, because often, you know, if you talk about jobs in private companies or what have you, you'll see as part of the sort of incentive, you know, opportunities for career progression or personal growth. Well, those opportunities there are available within An Garda Síochána as well, as you've proven.
Yeah. Listen, and there's lots of different courses as well. I know I'm in a detective role now, but I would have been given the opportunities to do advanced driving courses. I did mountain bike courses, a public order kind of riot training, you know, and I've been part of divisional task force as well in relation to sale and supply of drugs. So there's great varieties definitely within this career.
Why would you? It's a job worth doing, right? That's the tagline. What else? Because I was chatting to Garda Grania. No, it wasn't Garda Grania. Who was I talking to? I was talking to someone. Maybe it was her actually. And I'd find myself sort of maybe focusing on more of the negative side of things. Maybe, now we're seeing images of, guards being called every name under the sun, being challenged in the streets with phones in their faces. We're hearing cases of them being abused and assaulted and all that type of stuff. And of course, look, it is a dangerous job, but that's only part of it. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but we can't over amplify that either, right? So what are the benefits of being a guard? Why is it so positive in your view?
I suppose, like you said, it can be a really rewarding job. Sometimes the negativity on social media and in the media itself, can seem like it's quite loud.
Yeah.
But really on the day-to-day, like that doesn't really, affect me in how I carry out and do my job. And that's probably the same for a lot of guards. There's great morale in a lot of the stations, great camaraderie, and we always try to have fun at work as well as best that we can. And definitely, I'm not dreading going to work, and it is a very well-paid job with great opportunities as well.
In terms of the hours that are worked, it is at the moment, this has been a bit of controversy over recent years. It is 12-hour shifts, but you have your basic salary, and there are additional allowance and potentially, I'm sorry to bring it down to money, but for some people that's it, right? Overtime options, so whilst we talk about the basic starting salary of 37 plus, you get incremental increases, but there are other payments as well that you can receive, other allowances and what have you. Yeah,
so more specifically, if you have kind of previous qualifications and if you have an arts degree or any degree from college, you, after 2 years, I think you can jump up to number 5 on the pay scale. Okay. So you kind of skip a few years. And definitely for about the first 10 years, the wages do increase nearly every year. And then depending on how much overtime you work or night allowance or Sundays, you do get compensated for all of that. And then when you start off, you're doing the shift work, like you said, is 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and it's 4 days on, 4 days off. But you do have great time off, and you do have a lot of annual leave that you can take. And then in my role, then it's a small bit different. It's 6 days on, 4 days off. So it just
that's
changes.
Specific to your role and what have you. There's a member's pension scheme, flexible working options available throughout the career, access to Doctors of Choice GP scheme, the GP consultation fees covered by Garda Síochána, access to the medical aid scheme, access to Garda societies and clubs, and access to Garda credit unions. And on it goes. So there are many advantages that often don't get discussed.
Yeah, no, there is. And I suppose I'm just here today that maybe if you might be someone who mightn't have seen yourself as applying for this job, to maybe just keep an open mind. There's loads of information out there about the recruitment. It's on garda.ie. We're also having information evenings. Next Tuesday, there's going to be one in Ballybuffet Garda Station between 6 and 9. And there's going to be an information afternoon in the library here in Letterkenny as well between 3 and 5 on Wednesday.
And I think in any country or any society, the more reflective the membership of the Gardaí is of the population of the country, the better, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, because as I said, we're a police service for the community. So really we want, all types of people from the community, to be part of on Garda Síochána, so that they can better serve their community.
And it is an evolving force all the while. How long have you actually been a guard now?
I will be 10 years now in
Right, so
July.
I'm sure you've seen an evolution even in those short 10 years. It's a different force now than it might have been when you first joined.
Yeah, listen, we're constantly modernising, like the uniforms, the equipment that we have. We all have personal issue, mobile phones now and stuff, just so we can maybe have better contact with people that we're dealing with. Like I said, there's a lot of progress with regards to wellness for members as part of the job. So yeah, a lot has changed.
All right, brilliant stuff. Thanks so much for giving us an insight. I really appreciate it. And good luck going forward. Anything else you want to mention or anything I didn't ask you about that you think is important to get out there?
No. I suppose I've kind of said it all. Just to maybe for everyone to keep an open mind and definitely have a look into the recruitment drive.
All right, brilliant stuff. Publicjobs.ie is where you can get more information. Detective Garda Emer Hassett, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show. Get expert treatment for breaks, sprains, burns, injuries and illnesses. Opening offer €100 consultation fee. Walk in Monday to Friday 10am to 6pm at Scally Place, Letterkenny.
Visit Dunnes Stores this Valentine's Day for the love of better value. Raise a glass to romance with a great selection of red, white and sparkling wines like Paco and Lola Albarino from €15 or less. Treat someone special with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Available in store from the 12th of February. Plus, save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more. Voucher excludes alcohol. Please drink sensibly.
Want to work with the very best? Then make the all-new Nissan Interstar your next recruit. It's first impressions that count, and the Nissan Interstar doesn't disappoint. With a brand new eye-catching grille and jaw-dropping design. And with a stronger-than-ever payload, it has the power to match your ambition. Available now in electric and diesel versions. Let the world know you mean business with the all-new Nissan Interstar. Contact your local dealer or visit nissan.ie. Nissan. Defy ordinary.
This is an important message for all drivers. From March 31st, the law is changing. When you renew or take out motor insurance, you'll need to provide your driver number. It's on your driving licence, listed under point 4D, so make sure you have it to hand. Without your driver number, you won't get insured. Double check that you have your licence, and if you can't find it, take steps to have a valid licence in time for your insurance renewal date. This message is brought to you by Insurance Ireland and the Motor Insurers Bureau of Ireland in support of a Government of Ireland initiative.
Donegal will look to continue their fantastic start to their Division 1 League campaign this Sunday, with the All-Ireland champions Armagh coming to Ballybuffet. Join me, Oisín Kelly, at McCool Park from 3:30 for the big game build-up and full match commentary. Plus, we'll have former Donegal star forward Brendan Devaney with expert match analysis.
Coverage of Donegal action in the National Football League is with Highland Motors. Discover the new Citroën C5 Aircross, the SUV that offers amazing comfort and a dynamic design. Available in plug-in hybrid, petrol and diesel.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. I'm joined in studio by Independent Councillor Frank McBurty Jr. Frank, thanks so much for calling in and having a chat.
Oh, thanks very much for inviting me.
Now, just in relation to, we've got an awful lot to get through, but I'm just interested in your view of it's being put out there as the next big thing, the ongoing review of IS 465, and the hope that a review of it will see its scope widened, bring more people in, we'll have more science, more houses will get fixed. Do you see that as a positive? Is that a good thing that that's happening?
No, I think that IS 465 has been used as a red herring. It's not the problem. The scheme is the problem. The 90-10 scheme was the problem, and now the enhanced scheme is a problem. Because the schemes are based on mica as the cause of the structural defects, when we now know forensically from the UK Petrol Lab that the cause of the structural defects in Donegal are caused by reactive iron sulfide minerals.
And you've been saying that for quite some time, though. Will this review of IS 465 not, in a way, vindicate you in that regard? Not that it's about you personally, but is it not better that the science officially catches up with what we're already learning?
No, we should never have been using IS 465. It's a standard that was created for one purpose: to deflect away from the true cause of the structural defects in Donegal properties. So you have to ask the question, and a public inquiry, in my opinion, is the only way we're going to be able to ask these type of questions, is why the standard for manufacturing concrete blocks prior to the 2002 standard and after the 2002 standard, which is EN 771-3, which is an EU directive, which is automatically adopted by the National Standards Authority of Ireland, which is NSAI, why that standard was not used in the 90-10 scheme, and why they went out and created what's called a defective concrete block standard, IS 465. Because
do you believe that was to limit the scope of the scheme? Do you think that was intentional?
Oh, there was no doubt about it. That what do you call it? Like an Irish standard IS 465 is for reactive pyrite and mica, right? Now you have to ask the question, and why it has not been debated at all, I still can't understand why there hasn't been a demand for a public inquiry. But you have to ask publicly why Donegal is restricted with a standard that states that the testing under that standard is for reactive pyrite and for mica both. When Donegal is restricted in the 90-10 scheme and in the enhanced grant scheme, if you get testing, and that's a big if you get testing, why you're restricted to only testing for mica only. But the fact is, and the forensic evidence shows it, that mica is not the cause of the structural defects in the Donegal properties.
In relation to a public inquiry, why do you believe we haven't had a public inquiry yet? And who can call a public inquiry?
Well, it's the government that can establish a public inquiry with a stroke of a pen, but there needs to be that effort from the opposition to push the government to a place where they're going to establish that public inquiry.
We have an affected homeowner now in opposition. It is an individual, but it is a party in Deputy Charles Ward. Do you believe that he can at least make the strong case, if he hasn't already, for a public inquiry in the Dáil?
Well, the council has already passed a motion for a public inquiry.
Yeah.
The Intu party had an amendment done after the first rally in Dublin in June 2021 for a public inquiry, which was accepted. And you would have to ask the question now why it's gone so silent about the public inquiry. But there's 5 Donegal TDs, and every single one of them have someone connected to them that's affected by defective concrete, just the same as we all have somebody who's affected by cancer or other illnesses. So you'd have to ask the question, why politically there's not an effort by the 5 TDs.
Well, we kind of have an answer to that, because I put that question relatively recently to Deputy Pádraig McLaughlin, who's the chief whip of the biggest party in opposition, not the only party in opposition, of course, and he pointed to the Coleman legal case, that was progressing, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the impression I got from what he said was that effectively is doing that work. You've questioned how successful or not the class action, as some have described it from Coleman Legal, might be. But do you accept that is, in a way, a process that needs to be gone through before we see a public inquiry?
No. An example is the public inquiry that I was involved in. You had criminal cases, you had civil cases, and you had a public inquiry all running at the same time. None of them can interfere with each other's process. And I don't accept what Sinn Féin is saying about the Coleman Legal. The Coleman Legal is a civil case against 3 defendants, Cassidy's, the Donegal County Council and the NSAI. That is a compensation claim for each of those homeowners who are looking for the balance of between what they think they should have on top of the grant to actually rebuild their house. A public inquiry will look at every aspect of this scandal, when it started, why it started, and what is the real cause of the structural defects in Donegal properties. But that has not been forcibly pushed by opposition politicians at national level to highlight the fact that we need a public inquiry into the biggest scandal in Donegal for at least 100 years.
So, pardon my ignorance and have a bit of patience with me on this one, if you don't mind. So, say, for instance, we get the review of IS 465, okay, and it eventually finds that it's not mica, it's not pyrite, that it's deleterious materials, that it can affect foundations, it can affect inner, outer walls and all that type of stuff. And then the scheme, albeit not perfect, is reviewed to take that into consideration. Is that not a good thing? Now,
no, it's irrelevant.
Not talking about the scope of the scheme.
Is irrelevant.
But would that not find deleterious materials and some of the science that you've already had access to? Does that not move us past the mica scheme?
The scheme is the problem. The scheme is not 100% compensation.
Of course, yeah. That is a separate thing.
And secondly, it's a remediation scheme. It's a scheme that only wants to partially remediate your home and not completely fix the whole problem with your home.
Do you think we would see
the forensic
more
evidence that we have is going to expose, in my opinion, the biggest scandal in the history of this county, because the forensic evidence shows that mica is present in the test results, but mica is not the cause of the structural defects, and that includes the foundations. My parents' foundations, which the Minister of Housing has a copy of, Donegal County Council has a copy of, the NSAI have a copy of it, and the National Standards Authority of Ireland have a copy of it, and Engineers Ireland have a copy of it. They all know that there's a huge problem with foundations if they're not tested.
Yeah.
And the big thing is, no engineer or no chartered engineer can recommend to build on top of foundations that are suspect unless they're tested.
Yep, and maybe that might be even touched on in the review, but as you say, and as
But
many
the
others
IS
say...
465 review is irrelevant.
Okay.
Because IS 465 is only part of the problem. The problem is the scheme, both schemes, the 90-10 scheme. But you have to look at the enhanced scheme now, and you have to ask yourself publicly the question why the testing has been done away with, which was used in the 90-10 scheme, which that testing protocol is flawed because it's only for testing for mica only.
Now, I get exactly where you're coming from, but what I'm trying to establish from your point of view, because a lot of people are interested in what you have to say, the science, i.e. IS 465, getting that right, but it obviously then it being part of a bigger scheme that you see many flaws in. There's another problem too with the way testing was done, and I wonder, do you have an insight into how this would be resolved? It's generally accepted now that mica isn't the issue, but a lot of people are getting tests or have tests done that show mica is present, but the other deleterious materials aren't, and it's choking the housing system because there's people with houses that won't deteriorate, have mica in inverted commas, and they can't move them on. Is that something?
But this is
that's
why you
been
need the
raised
public
with
inquiry.
So you think that would resolve part of that as well?
This is why the public inquiry is very important. Our own engineer, based in Derry, has advised me that when they're testing properties in Northern Ireland, they're getting high levels of mica, up to 9-10% in the block sample, right? But there's no other deleterious materials identified in the test results by the manufacturers in Northern Ireland that are manufacturing these concrete blocks. And the fact that no deleterious materials other than mica is identified in the test results means that test result is passing the British standard, which is identical to the Irish standard, which both come from the EU directive EN 771-3. So you have to ask the question, why out here in Donegal that we decided to blame mica for the cause of the structural defects, and who is responsible for bringing this narrative about and designing and creating a standard around a cause that's not the cause of the structural defects in Donegal. And only a public inquiry, in my opinion, will expose the full facts and truths of what has actually happened, going right back to 2010 when this first started raising its head, when people started complaining about settling cracks in their homes.
Judicial review versus public inquiry, what's the difference?
Big difference is a public inquiry is a fact-finding mission.
Right.
A judicial review, you're basically challenging legislation.
How important do you think, if we had a judicial review and a successful judicial review in an individual case, might that be in changing the scope of the scheme? That wouldn't necessarily lead to bigger caps, would it?
A judicial review, in particular if it was somebody like Charlie Ward was taking a judicial review, in my opinion, that will change the scheme for the better for every homeowner in Donegal.
It doesn't lift the caps though necessarily, does it?
Well, it doesn't. That's the problem that has to be legislated on.
Yeah.
That the cap is an open cap of 100% redress. But the issue here is, the number one issue is the engineering solution that has been given to homeowners of option 2 to 5, which is an incorrect solution to the actual problem that's in the properties they're identifying as being destroyed because of reactive iron sulfate minerals. See, you have to understand the standards, and you have to understand that there's 3 categories of reactive minerals. You have pyrrhotite, which is 0.1%. You have reactive pyrite, 0.9%, and you have the other reactive minerals, which is rare pyrite, chalcopyrite, marcasite, and others, which is 0.9% or 0.99%, right? And when they're identified with pyrrhotite, it reclassifies those reactive minerals as total sulfates. So you have a combination of not just pyrrhotite, you have other reactive minerals that are now reclassified as total sulfates in your test results.
Can you explain in simple terms what the reaction is that leads to the deterioration of the block?
Yes, you have the chemical reaction. Your aggregate is the cause of the structural.
So is aggregate the little bits of stone that's
yes,
contained
it's what is taken out of the quarry and put into the manufacturing process,
and that's mixed with a cement, and it's compressed.
Chemicals and cement paste and water and the oxidization. And once that process happens with these reactive minerals above 0.1%, there's a chemical reaction that causes internal sulfur attack, And that internal sulfur attack is caused by sulfuric acid that comes from the chemical reaction when the reactive minerals react.
And does that basically then break down the cement?
It attacks the iron oxide
Okay.
inside the aggregate, which is the strength of the aggregate, but at the same time it attacks the cement paste, which is the bond and the Newton strength of the block, which is progressively over a long period of time that Newton strength reduces.
Yeah. And we know
aggregate.
that if I'm correct, Frank, we know that we were getting blocks in Donegal in many cases with a lower neutron.
No, see, I don't accept that.
Were they not?
The scientific evidence will show that the blocks were more than likely manufactured at the correct standard, right?
Okay, I thought there was a different block was going into the north versus what was going into the south. No?
The standard for a block, the 2002 standard, is 7.5 Newton.
Mm.
Prior to 2002, it was 5 Newton.
And what was it in Northern Ireland at that time?
That's what it is as well.
Okay.
It's a British and Irish standard.
Understood.
But you can go in and you can order whatever Newton strength of block you want. But the problem is, when you have those reactive iron sulfide minerals present in the aggregate, and once the manufacturing process is complete, there's chemical reaction with the internal sulfur attack, causes the Newton strength to reduce over a long period of time.
So it becomes irrelevant.
So it's nothing to do with the Newton strength of the block.
Anyone who goes on to the defective concrete blocks grant scheme can take a judicial review. Why haven't we seen that yet? Is it because of the fear, for instance, of being unsuccessful and ending up with massive costs?
First of all, it's a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Homeowners don't have the knowledge that somebody like me has, that has investigated this now for 4 years. So you have a lack of knowledge, but you've also got a fear of legal costs, because there's always a risk of anyone who takes a judicial review, and that includes a TD. But a TD who's a legislator,
i.e. maybe Charles Ward in this case,
is in a far better position to possibly get their legal costs if the judicial review fails, because there is a big question mark on a judicial review. You could win, but you could also fail. But the thing about it is, if you're a legislator and you fail, that opens the door to the other superior court, which is the Court of Appeal, the Court of the Supreme Court, and then the court to the European Court of Human Rights.
Do you believe that the review of IS 465 will include foundations? Because, it would be better, I presume, if you're taking a judicial review, that foundations would be sort of tied into that.
Well, I honestly don't know what's happening.
What's your gut telling you, though?
Well, my gut feeling is it's only going to be a review on concrete blocks.
Yeah.
Because what you have to understand is a concrete foundation's Newton strength has to be 35 Newton and above. And a concrete foundation will take a lot longer to disintegrate than a concrete block will because of the Newton strength. Like, for example, in my parents' test results on their foundations, the 8 core samples were crushed. All the tests were completely conducted on them, and they've identified as being reactive with external and internal sulfur attack. Mm-hmm. And that internal and external sulfur attack has caused 2 of the samples out of the 8 to reduce by 75%, and the other samples have lost between 30 and 90% of their Newton strength since my parents' foundations were poured in 2008. So the foundations, because of the Newton strength, it takes a lot longer for that Newton strength to reduce to the basically no cement paste left that's holding the aggregate together. Mm-hmm. But we don't know what the period of time that will be. Yeah. But and the engineers' recommendations and my father's foundations reports that they have to come out.
Well, it'd be very hard if an engineer had access to the science that you're talking of. It'd be very hard to sign off on.
But engineers do have access to the science. Because you have to understand in the 9010 scheme, there's in and around 850 Petrolab test results. Mm-hmm. And I can't get the information from the council because they're claiming data protection. But the bottom line is those 850 test results from Petrolab in the UK on Donegal homes all have a visual estimate of the cause of the structural defects, which is reactive iron sulfide minerals. Okay. Now, I am led to believe, and we definitely have 3 of my family members who have what's called the sulfur attack analysis. But engineers, there's around 100 other sulfur attack analyses in the 9010 scheme that prove equivalently the quantity of the reactive iron sulfide minerals that are present in those 100 plus houses that have been tested under the sulfur attack analysis. Mm-hmm. So if you were going out today to sell your house and somebody was buying it, the advice that engineers would be working for me would be telling them you need to get a sulfate attack analysis done on that property before you buy
But
it.
it's probably still only mica test that's been doing
But
in
see,
a lot
that's
of
all
cases.
the failure of legislators to protect the homeowner, because the
That
buyer,
is a very untold story, actually.
well, buyer
I think.
beware
Yeah.
is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's down to the homeowner. It's down to the person who's buying the house to ensure that that house is not defective.
But also, you have homeowners who are trapped in their home because it might have levels of mica that aren't going to do any damage, but there's no way of them really articulating
No, but you
that.
see, you have to understand, there's no standard for mica.
I'm on about
But
perception,
no,
Frank.
but this is the myth, right? There's no peer-reviewed studies on mica. There's no peer-reviewed literature from any studies on mica. We have on top of the Petrolab test results and on top of the standards for the concrete block and ready mix concrete, we have the science that shows us that mica is not even considered in the manufacturing process of a concrete product. So you have to ask yourself the question, why? Who invented this? I personally know who is responsible for this. But because of defamation and libel, which all has to be proved in the courts, I can't say.
You have to sit
I
on
can't
it until
say.
such
I
time
can't
as you
make
get your day
public
in
comment
court.
on it.
Yeah, I get you.
Until we get into a court and cross-examine these people
right.
on why mica was put to the forefront
Why the
of
coat
the cause
was why
of the structural defects.
Why was the coat hung on that hanger? You're saying okay. So we have the review IS 465. You've expressed your views in relation to that.
Sinn Féin should publish.
No, I want to get to that in a second.
Their legal advice.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a
because
second.
The legal advice that we've got contradicts their legal advice.
Yep. So we have the review of IS 465. Some people find it more important than you do. The Coleman legal case is ongoing. You have your reservations about that. I think there's some other.
Well, personally, I'm not against Coleman.
No, you have your
legal.
reservations.
I want to see Coleman legal succeed.
But what are
for every homeowner that's entered it?
What are you doing, or what can you do, or what can you publicly divulge that you or your parents or other family members affected by this? Are you continuing to pursue this through the courts? Is it a long way away? Are you making any progress? Or are you waiting for...
No, my parents will be issuing a test case, and that's what you call it, a test case, on their own home. Possibly they will be taking a judicial review in the very near future. But we are waiting on what Charlie Ward is actually going to do about his own house, because we feel that Charlie Ward's house is probably the best prone of attack against the state because of the fact that he is now a legislator
and he's pursuing
in
the public
Dáil Éireann.
interest.
And he has made commitments publicly that he would take a judicial review. Now, he has spoken to my lawyers and he's had a long conversation with them, as far as I'm aware, which my lawyers won't disclose what they've discussed with Charlie Ward because it's his own personal business. But I would be of the opinion that that is the best avenue and quickest. It's the quickest avenue, in my opinion.
And if he was successful, does that set a test case? Does that?
Well, you see, the thing about it is it's so complicated. The ordinary Joe Soap doesn't understand this. The big possibility, if you've got the science, that it will prove the wrongdoing of the state in creating this scheme, they will more than likely try to get you into a room to make a settlement with you in a judicial review process, which is not normally done in a judicial review. But we were basically advised that because of the forensic evidence that we have in our possession, they're more than likely the state would be looking to negotiate with us.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the scheme. That doesn't mean the scheme all of a sudden becomes the bells and whistles 100% either, though. I mean,
no, it doesn't.
We
but
found
what it does do,
yeah.
the number one issue here, first of all, is to get the correct engineering solution for the cause of the structural defects. Yes, 100% redress is every bit as important.
But the judicial review process does not necessarily achieve that.
No, it doesn't. Certainly, and anybody would say it does is not being honest about it. The judicial review process is basically challenging the engineering solution given to homeowners in the enhanced scheme and the previous scheme, the 90-10 scheme, because options 2 to 5 should not be in this scheme.
Okay.
Because if your property is affected,
it's affected throughout, and you've made that,
including the foundation,
exactly
right?
everything.
There's only one solution.
You have a different phrase
and
for them.
that is
Take
full demolition.
Right. Just finally, what's the significance of you challenge Sinn Féin to publish their legal opinion, which you say I think is at odds with yours or what's out there? So just reiterate that. Well, what is the significance of that?
Well, they're basically saying that you shouldn't judicial review IS 465, but this judicial review is not about IS 465. They're hiding behind IS 465 review. How long is a piece of string? We've been promised this review for the last 3 years, and we still see no daylight on the actual review. Because, in my opinion, if they make changes to IS 465, then the people who have entered the 9010 scheme all have a case against the state, because they were made to use IS 465 in their applications to the 9010 scheme when the state knew that this was a flawed standard. But this has all to be proven in a court of law, because at the minute it's only hearsay publicly that IS 465 is a flawed standard. Because at the end of the day, a barrister has already advised me from Cork that it's an Irish standard and you must treat it as an Irish standard because it's an Irish standard. But it's not an EU-recognised directive.
Okay. Listen,
so Sinn Féin would need to step up to the mark and show the public, right, do you agree or disagree with what Frank McBurdy's assertion is with his legal opinion? And do you agree that the most important aspect of the judicial review is to judicial review the problem, which is the schemes? Both schemes have been a huge problem for homeowners, because we have a lot of homeowners who have only been given remediation options 2 to 5 when they should have been getting option 1, full demolition. And if their foundations is not tested, then their foundations should also come out.
Yeah,
because they're not tested.
And there's an awful lot of consequences to that as well, in terms of indemnities and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very complex, and we seem as far away as ever to having what a lot of people want, a fully 100% redress scheme that follows the science and doesn't penalise people just because they happen to be able to build a bigger house than their neighbour.
There's a pile of aspects that has to be looked at. Like, the industry was not policed, and the evidence we have proves that it's not been policed. And that's still not been policed correctly today. Like, you have people demolishing houses that have reactive iron sulfate minerals in their blocks, and then those blocks are being dumped in landfills, and it's a known fact scientifically that anything with reactive iron sulfate minerals in it cannot be dumped in a landfill. Okay. But Donegal County Council will not take responsibility for that.
I don't know exactly. I just don't know exactly what they're doing with those blocks. We'll definitely check into that.
The waste management companies are taking them.
Yeah.
But they're not supposed to be put into a landfill because they're reactive. There's a chemical reaction in those blocks.
Well, that's certainly something we'll look into and pursue. But for now, Independent Councillor Frank McBurty Jr., thank you very much for your time.
Need expert care without the wait. Affidia Letterkenny MIU, sponsors of today's show, have you covered. Walk in Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Scally Place for expert injury and illness care. Opening offer, just €100 consultation fee.
Braca Perth Blackface Sheep Breeders Association, in conjunction with Donegal Blackface Sheep Breeders Association and Slieve League Blackface Sheep Breeders Association, will hold an in-lamb yo and dry hogget sale this Saturday 15th of February at 12 noon at Braca Cloughan Cooperative Mart. Online bidding available on marti.ie.
If you're looking for a competitive insurance quote, contact Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers in Letterkenny. Home, car or van insurance, farm, commercial or public liability insurance. They compare quotes from all the leading insurers so you get a great price. Call Hickey Clark and Langan on 91 26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Landlords, did you know that by law you must register your tenancy annually with the Residential Tenancies Board? For rental properties in a rent pressure zone, there are also specific rules to follow when setting and increasing rent. For information and resources to help you comply with rental laws and to avoid penalties, visit rtb.ie today. Brought to you by the Residential Tenancies Board.
Make time for the Hyundai Inster Open event with extended opening hours this Thursday to Saturday. Meet the all-new, all-electric Inster with its eye-catching design and surprisingly spacious interior, starting from just €18,995. Now available to road test at showrooms nationwide. The Hyundai Inster Open event this Thursday to Saturday.
Your local dealer is Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny. Call 91 22 600.
With the phasing out of R32 refrigerant and heat pumps, discover next generation comfort with the new award-winning Grant Airona R290 heat pump, delivering exceptional performance with quiet operation. The Grant Airona R290, heating for the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today. Affidia Letterkenny MIU, proud sponsors of today's show. Get expert
Right,
treatment.
we'll stop that. That shouldn't have ran on. Come back, Mr. Ad Break. Weather forecast today will be mostly cloudy, mainly dry across our region. Moderate east to south east winds will increase fresh to strong and gusty through the afternoon and evening. Cold with highest temperatures of 4 to 6 degrees. And obviously, it put an inquiry in relation to what is happening to blocks from demolished houses. And they can go into landfill, as outlined by the councillor there. Almost every day we read on social media of missing people, mostly young people. Then a day or two later they turn up, says a caller. Is this a fad? Such a waste of taxpayers' money when resources have to be paid just for my view. Yeah, it is definitely something. I do know there are social media trends in relation to this. I do know teenagers also run off, and maybe 20 years ago we didn't have the social media to sort of track them down. Thankfully, 99.9 times out of 100, and I do keep a close eye on this, they are found. In some cases, it can be younger people running off from foster accommodation. So you might see the similar names on a few occasions. These are all young people that need help and support. And as I say, most times they end up going back home. I think we've all sort of in our day thought about doing it, not condoning it for a second, but it happened and we didn't know about it because social media wasn't there. Great show as usual. Thanks so much. The Kiltoy Road here in Letterkenny, speed limit has just been reduced from 80k to 60k. Very welcome, but no effort whatsoever. Traffic still flying up and down as if there was no speed limit at all. I'm a resident for many years and have never seen a speed van on this road. Why? Well done to Councillor Frank McBurty on his interview. He's put his heart and soul into the campaign and is helping the people, says a listener. We were talking about Irish. We all learned the beautiful song Badgeen Ilimi in 6th class, which was on the Department of Education curriculum throughout the country. The number of people who don't realise that this song is about the islands of Donegal and Felemy fleeing the landlords of the mainland to get on these islands of Tory and of Gola. I'm a DC block home owner. I got an offer for the scheme. I appealed the offer and have been waiting for a response. We were offered inner and outer relief. A builder won't take us on as the walls could collapse. This was the 12th of July and would get a response in 6 months. I'm still waiting. So inner and outer leaf. So what's being retained? So you do one leaf supporting the roof, second leaf maybe supporting concrete floor. Right, media discourse on the Irish language is always positive. NECAP have certainly amplified issues relating to Osgailga or Ongailga. However, I'm not sure if the emphasis on drugs misuse in the lyrics is a positive element in the context of their influence on our younger people. I understand they are the masters of their own art and enjoy the freedoms of expression as everyone else, including Eurovision entrants. Maybe parents could use NECAP as a vehicle to drive home the dangers of drug abuse. But like music is an art, the same way TV is an art, theatre is an art, and often it does mean, issues like drug use, abuse, violence are addressed. I grew up listening to rap music, for crying out loud, and all it was drugs and bombs and shooting and stuff. It didn't do me any harm. That's part and parcel of it. They're not going to listen to all kinds of everything all of the time. So I think young people can differentiate between someone rapping about drugs and actual taking of drugs. I could be wrong, but anyway. Hi, Greg. I'd like to stay anonymous. I just want to hear if others have similar concerns. I'm a Letterkenny resident living in the Carnamugga area. I have concerns about the proposed location of the much-needed crematorium. I'm not hearing anyone else talking about this. Many thanks. I don't know what your concerns are. We did discuss this and talk about, parking and all that kind of stuff in the past. The planning process, I suppose, is there. That's where people make their concerns known. I'm not sure at what stage of planning it is, but if people have concerns, I suppose they they submit them through as part of that process. I'm guessing, and maybe they don't always make them public. Why is Donald Mandy Kelly out there? Why is Donald Mandy Kelly at, or what is he at? Sorry, there is a perfectly good road from Stramore National School to the Garmskull via Glenswilly without tarring, a bog road which only would be used by boy racers and rally drivers. The councillor appears to have a thing about roads, as he wants a car park at the bridle path at Glenveigh National Park, and nobody but him has seen that road blocked by anyone save rally drivers who illegally block the road. Now, he's making representations on behalf of the school themselves who've represented those concerns to him. I'm sure it's not just a solo run. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We're back with the Friday panel tomorrow. We're going to be discussing some of the big stories and issues of the day. That's Entertainment is back and so much more besides. So please come back here tomorrow morning at 9, but don't go anywhere.